I guess somebody decided to erase all of our numbers. We're gonna have to start over.
Oh. The question I have, we're going to go over here and do this pretty quickly.
Is it something that would benefit everyone?
Possibly. We're done with the relocation.
Let's
We can do that.
wait.
Okay.
Let everyone benefit.
Okay, sounds good.
This can't be
You
current
have a mask?
because Kelly hasn't been in a long time.
I'm at 10% battery. I'm not gonna make it. I can already tell.
I don't think I have.
It's going down really fast. I should shut it down.
It seems to be February, so I'm not gonna feel really bad about erasing it. Alright, since I got erased. How was Tuesday? What did Becky cover on Tuesday?
She did kind of going through not the killer whale command, but just the process of, I would say just go through kind of some of the process. I guess setting up the whole thing, getting everything set up with the, your emails and stuff like that. Just like the beginning.
All right.
Make sure we can access it right and stuff like that.
It's been on there so long it won't even dry erase.
How was your vacation?
It was awful.
Awful.
I moved, I had an office building for my other business that I am getting ready to sell. And so I had to move. And what I learned is that 15 years of being in an office, and at one point in time there were 5 of us. I have it in my car, I'm gonna go up and get that here in a minute. I have a box of surplus office supplies and stuff. If you guys wanna see if there's anything in there you guys want before I take it to Goodwill. But what I've learned is that I had a couple of employees that might have had hoarding issues because I have enough paper clips and ACOs to last me like an entire lifetime. Like an entire drawer, like a lateral file cabinet, it was nothing but paper clips. It's like, I mean, how did I pay off for all these paper clips, you know? Yeah. So you're gonna have to put your numbers up here because somebody erased us.
I don't even remember. Hang on, I'll look on my commands. Yeah, do that. Contacts.
So you put your name up there and your number of contacts. I'm gonna go get that box of office supplies while I'm thinking about it. Or I'll end up taking them home with me again, which I do not want to do. Good morning, Brian. Any word?
That one doesn't work.
No, nothing yet.
Was the test as horrible as I've heard it is?
I've had a few nasal surgeries, so having something shoved up my nose is not a big deal to me.
My daughter said it was the worst thing. She was born with a cleft lip, so and all of her sinuses had to be rebuilt. So I wonder if hers just weren't particularly sensitive or something, because she said that she was pretty sure they scraped her brain. I don't know.
So,
Yeah, that's some good contact tracing,
Tracing right
though,
now.
huh, Brian?
if you go into commands
That works.
and just go to your contacts right there. I don't know if you've started yet or not.
Nah.
You may not have started. So yeah, just put your name up there, and then each week you can just keep adding your contacts, and you can just put your number up there.
Oh, just like new people we talk to during the week or something? Is that what you mean? Or-
Yeah, but you have to put them as a contact. Yeah. So if you have one, throw one. So you have one, right?
Well, that's me. That's what we did.
Yeah. Well, that's all. That's good. I mean, just put your name up there, and then every week you can just add your contacts. Because like you'll go through like all your Facebook friends, add them as contacts, put their birthdays in, start contacting them, tell them, hey, I'm a new agent, whatever. I went through my address book at home, added on mine. I keep adding as I go, but get the initial because you have to get 100. You have to have at least 100 contacts in there to be in the PC.
Right.
To get those leads, to get in the pool for the leads, Facebook leads, you have to have 100. So I just went through all my Facebook. I went through my address book. I went through my phone contacts.
So all the contacts you add through your phone, through your Facebook, through all your stuff. Anybody that comes active in buying or selling or something becomes a contact that you put on the board.
It's a lead. No, you put all of them up there. And then when you're working on them, you put them as a lead. Like if you want them as a lead, you put a lead up there. She just wants to know how many contacts because you have to have at least 100.
Yeah, okay.
But just add all of them and then, put them, because they'll start talking about tags.
Yeah.
And you can start tagging them like with their last name, just start doing calls, quarterly calls or whatever, just to stay in touch with them. But I would do this, but I only have 9% and I need her to see that one thing. But
Okay.
yeah, just start adding everywhere, like phones, Facebook.
Okay. I've been trying to play I'm a new agent, so I want to see how it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing this for a year. I'm with someone else, but now I want to make sure I'm doing it right.
Yeah.
So have y'all guys done the 66-day command challenge?
I'm about a quarter of the way through, but I really need to probably start again. That's on my list of to-dos. So I have it on my calendar to do it every day, one a day. Because there's only like
5,
between
10, 20 minutes.
12 minutes,
Yeah.
15 minutes. So I do one every day. So I'm working my way through it. And then there's a new one, I guess. So after I get this one done, I'd like to go through the new one. as well.
good, we're recording.
4.0, right?
There's Alexis.
Oh, I thought we started off, we're supposed to start with 4.0.
Oh, maybe the new people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you can do 3 or 4. 4 is going to be a little bit more advanced. He's picking up the things that he didn't do before. I wouldn't go back and do 1 or 2 just because command has changed.
At least 3.
But 3 or 4 are a good where to do that. Good morning, Alexis.
Because I kind of do it on mine.
Brian, you want to give us your contacts? We'll put them on the board.
Sure. Command is 289.
Yay.
Nice.
What else you need?
Alexis, can you hear me? Are you there? Maybe not.
I mean, I got more than that, but.
It's all right. Gotta start somewhere.
Let me make sure nobody's texted and we'll get started. Oh, I'm not very good at keeping a watch on my phone to make sure somebody's having an issue.
Trying to find next, so see if he's okay with it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, Tim is going to be here at 10 from First Merchants. So would one of you guys like watch the clock and go up and like let him in? Like maybe I told him to text me, but if somebody just help me remember what time it is, because that's not my strong suit. Oh, we lost Alexis now.
When you get all settled, then you put your number of contacts up there. The number of contacts you have in command.
With the address and phone number and everything, or
Just contacts in there. We'll start with that. We have to have 2 points of contact for them to really be viable contacts, but I really want to encourage you to get them in there. So how about you? Have you had any luck getting a database put together?
Yes and no. I do have one to put together. I just haven't put it in the mix.
Is it in a spreadsheet?
Now so all my contacts that have the the name, email address, and phone number.
Uh-huh.
The majority of them are in my my matrix.
Uh-huh.
So I need.
Oh, did we talk about that? Did we?
Yeah, well,
I
we
was
was trying
supposed
to
to
figure
figure
it out,
out
but
how
we
to
didn't.
export it.
Yeah, so I was just gonna actually just do it one by one. It's no big deal.
Well, hang on. I'm
I
gonna
didn't-
make myself a note to call Angie and find out. Because there's got to be a way. If they're in there, there's a way to get them out. We just need to talk to Angie's the tech person at my board, and we'll see if we can't figure that out. All right, who wants to start? I need your big win for the week. Good morning, Alexis. Can you hear us now? It's not working out so good, is it? Brian could hear us, so it has to be on her end. Jill, I know what Jill's big win is.
Well, I hope she hasn't sent it back up. She texted last night and said, it's a go, we're gonna accept, but she said she'd sent me the signatures last night and I haven't seen anything yet, so when she does that.
Fill everybody in so they know what you did.
Oh, it's been an ongoing process with this house. It's been like 2 mutual releases, finally this one. They had a huge inspection response. A couple items on there were already disclosed, so my seller said he's about $1,200 is all he's good to go because he already went down 10,000. So we had somebody come in, somebody that Carla knew, and it was like $10,000 worth of work. And he just picked the main things that you think somebody would like to see fixed. So he did electrical, plumbing, and I think just electrical and plumbing, and then it equaled about 900, so that gave enough in case something happened with the appraisal, but the appraisal came back perfect. We sent it over, and there were like 2 other things that they wanted, and hopefully, I guess they accepted. She said last night was fine, so.
But one of the things that we had to talk about yesterday that's really good for everybody to hear is that they wanted a credit to get a repair done, okay? And when we've got Tim here, we could even ask Tim his input on it by having to know what it is, because I've done enough deals with Tim this way. You can't give cash at closing to the buyer. That's mortgage fraud. And you're going to run into old school realtors, and that's what they're going to suggest is we just do this on the side. And I mean, even Becky recommended this to me early on, that this is just how it gets done. But I think the better way to do it is one of 2 things. You can either adjust closing cost assistance. So if they have, let's say that, if they have to bring $2,500 to closing, and you give them a $300 credit towards closing costs, that gives them $300 that they can then go spend on something. And that's okay with the lender, because the lender can get closing costs. You can give closing cost assistance to the seller. So that's one way to resolve that issue and not do anything funky. I mean, what if you represent the buyer and they want to do this and they write a bad check? Now what are you going to do, right? I mean, there's just like all of these issues
Right.
with that circumventing way. The other way to handle it is to have the buyer, either the seller picks a contractor. I do this. So the company that I had her get with, they're called In-House. Is what they're called? In-House. They come through, they'll take the entire inspection report, and they'll figure out what the cost is for everything. And then say my buyer's willing to spend $3,000. So what we put in the inspection response is, here's what everything's going to cost. You weren't buying a brand new house, so you can't have all these things. We're willing to give you a check for payable to the contractor, In-House contracting, for $3,000, and you can pick what you choose to have them repair. Now, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll counter back and they'll have their own contractor, and I don't care about that. That's perfectly fine with me. When my daughter and son-in-law, when we got their house over in Bean Creek, it needed a roof and gutters, and it was an estate. Well, the estate didn't have any money. They couldn't pay to get any repairs done ahead of time. So they just cut a check to the roofer for 75% of the roof at closing. We didn't do 100% of the roof. They weren't buying a house with a brand new roof. They only paid $45,000 for the house, you know. But the check got cut to the roofing company, and then when the work was done, they just gave the check to the roofers, and it was all fine. So there's ways to do it that are legal and within the constraints of what the mortgage company will allow. But what I always recommend is that you call the lender and say, hey, I've got this issue. This is the way I'm going to resolve it. Is this going to work okay for you? And then they're going to say yes, and then you're going to be fine. But they're going to, some old school realtors, if you see realtors with a number of 10,000 or below, they're going to have some other suggestions on how they want to handle it. And I blame it on Scott Smith. I always say, you know what, my broker, I don't even know that, but I always say my broker doesn't allow things like that, you know, or my lender isn't going to allow that. And they'll say, oh, well, your lender doesn't have to know. And I'll be like, oh, well, I already told them. Just because, you know, I don't.
Like they just want money back at closing. I don't know.
But they can't get money back.
I
at
know,
closing,
it's like
though.
that's what they want. It's like,
That's what they want. It's the old school way of doing things. And that's the problem, is it's the old school way. I mean, when I bought my first house, we got money at closing to put carpet in the house. You'll see this in the listings. You'll see carpet allowance. Well, you can't have a carpet allowance. That doesn't work. The only way you can have a carpet allowance is if the check at closing gets cut to the carpet people, right?
Yeah.
So the money can't come to the buyer. So that was the important lesson from that one.
I just need to go over the amendment to the purchase agreement.
Oh, so there you go. Thank you for reminding me. So that's the rest of it. So when you do this situation, it is an amendment. Not the cutting a check thing. That's fine. You can do that on the inspection response. But if you're going to resolve it by giving a $250 credit for closing costs, then that is an amendment to the purchase agreement, right? Because the purchase agreement, with where it would have originally been, was in the purchase agreement. So you're amending the purchase agreement. And then when that happens, who all do you think needs to know about it? The title company. Yeah, because the title company needs to know, because it needs to go on the closing statement, and the lender needs to know that there's been an amendment to the purchase agreement. Angie, big win.
It has been a rough week. I was on vacation, had a house full of people, so I didn't get a lot done, but the family I have, I've at least got them packing boxes to get the house cleaned out to put it up for sale. So there's a big win.
That is a big win.
She's got the U-Haul truck, and we've got the storage unit. So if I've got nothing else,
That's
I've at least got that,
huge.
because I'm even going to go over and help them pack just to get this moving.
Don't diminish that. That's a big win.
I'm coming over and we're going to pack, because it's
People
been
have-
a huge struggle, but they found a house they want. I'm like, we're never going to be strong if your house isn't there. And now the house they want me to put an offer in on is relocation. It's in with the relocation company. So I already talked to the realtor last night, and she said, you probably won't even accept it at all because your house isn't in.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't know. I said, well, is there other options? She told me a couple options that she had used about recast. I don't really know what that is. I was going to talk to Jenny about their mortgage recast. Not sure.
I think that's kind of like the blanket loans that I have talked to you about with
Okay.
Union Savings. But the thing is, you have to have a really strong equity position to make one of those work. So I don't know what kind of equity.
The house that I need up for sale, because there's two houses that's going to be sold eventually. I can sell the other one like now, but it won't give us enough for the 20% down in the home. Hers will. Hers will bring us like $130,000. So that's what we need. I need that house sold. So
But Jenny doesn't do those, but Union
Does she
Savings Bank does.
okay.
And I can give you Jeff's information. He's awesome. They just have to have really, really good credit, like high 700s, and they have to have equity.
Okay.
And then there's some solutions for that.
Well, I'm hoping this house is on the market by the weekend, because I told them, I said, they had this laundry list of things we're going to do. I went through the house. I go, no, don't do that. No, let's just get the thing up for sale. So, yeah, I guess my win is I at least got them packing boxes.
That is not a small win. That is a huge win. Getting a seller, getting someone who needs to sell in the mind frame that they need to get their mindset right. That is a huge victory. I mean, that starts the downward, down the hill moment. So that's awesome.
I think it's the husband that doesn't want to get rid of anything, and all his parents' stuff's in this house. I mean,
Well, you've done exactly the right thing. Get it in a storage unit, because then that's not your problem.
you can start going through a little at a time.
Or not. And then it just, you guys need to read this book. It's called the Swedish Art of Death Cleaning. It's a really short book. A sweet lady wrote it. The name of the book is awful, but the book itself is awesome, and it's quick. I did an audio book, and I think it was done in like 2 hours. And she actually reads it, and she's just adorable. But it'll give you some good tips to think about when you encounter somebody that's struggling with too much stuff and they need to move. It will help you give some. I highly recommend the book. Okay, Alexis, can you hear us yet? Or maybe you can hear me, but I can't hear you. Well, that's a good sign. At least that you can hear us. You can chat. You can hit in the chat at the bottom if you want to talk to us, and I'll try to watch it. Do you know how to get the chat at the bottom? Oh, there you go. Hello. Okay, we've accomplished something. Miranda, big win.
Well, I've been adding to my database, and I reached out to somebody, and I didn't think that they were, like, I guess I thought they had just rented, like started their rental, but they had actually just applied like for a pre-approval, like with a lender. So I didn't realize they were so far along, like ready to look for something, and they would be first-time home buyers. So that was pretty exciting. And they said they're like, we would love to use you. So that was pretty cool.
Awesome. Well, and after today, you're going to have another tool in your toolbox for them. So that'll be exciting.
Yes, I have several people that would probably go for that deal. So I'm excited to hear about that.
That is an important thing to remember, is don't pre-guess whether people are potential clients or not. Let them decide. You don't get to choose for them, because you will choose wrong.
I was kind of hesitant, like, well, the next year. And they're like, we actually just filled out an application yesterday. So once we get that through, like, we're ready to go.
So imagine, everybody for a minute, imagine if she wouldn't have called them, what might they have done? They would have found someone else. So you have to call the people in your database. You have to call them. If you don't, they will use someone else, and that will be not their fault. You can't be mad at them. You guys have heard my story, right? My girlfriend that said, well, yeah, I knew you were a realtor, but you didn't ask for my business, so I figured you didn't want to work with me. Okay. That's a rough way to learn a lesson. That was a $600,000 deal on both sides, that I didn't get to have because I didn't ask her to. I mean, I even had the conversation. I got my real estate license. I'm so excited. But she didn't get the message that I wanted to work with her. She thought, I don't know. She said, oh, I just thought you always did commercial. So I just thought you were going to do commercial. And I didn't know you were going to be able to do this. And she assumed, but I can't fault her for assuming, because I assumed that she knew I wanted to work with her, and I didn't say the words. So very good lesson. Jay, big win this week.
Just like two ladies, I think I had a couple of people who I've been working with who have decided to go ahead and move to the next step. So that's cool. One lady, she wanted to wait, but I kept telling her that, unless she really knows what she wants to do, she wants to move forward. If not, then we'll wait. Well, she went ahead and moved forward, and the lender, he called me and said that she was approved, and she needed to get a couple more points up on her score, but she had the money to pay whatever she needed to get the credit move up.
Okay.
So that's cool.
Very
Then
cool.
another lady called me yesterday and said that she was ready to have a meeting about moving forward to buy a house too. So we'll do that Sunday.
Very nice.
So that's cool.
That's 2 in your pipeline. That's really good win. Brian, other than the fabulous COVID test, what was your big win this week?
A learning experience. How about that?
You don't have a big win first?
Honestly, I really don't have a big win.
All
this week.
right. Well, then your learning experience is a win. I just was hoping for bigger than that.
Yeah, I know.
I bet if we thought about it, we could find one.
Okay, well, so part of the learning experience was previously. So the buyer that I have, we've been going up to Carmel.
Oh.
He made an offer on a house Saturday morning. He and I had met Friday night at this house up in Fishers, actually. And at the end of our talk Friday night, I said, and this was after meeting with you in the morning, Carla, I said, okay, you may want to consider this, write a letter. And he was like, oh my gosh, because he's very much a numbers guy, not so much a emotional sort of.
He's not a warm and fuzzy.
He is not. And I said, all right, well, have your girlfriend write it. That's fine. So he ended up writing this, one of them ended up writing a letter trying to plead with the sellers to consider them. And they were one of 13 offers.
Wow.
And in talking to the realtor Monday morning when they were trying to make their final decision, she says, honestly, it's coming down to they're reading everything. Like she says, right now they're going down to the letters that the buyers have written to decide which house or which offer they want to go with. So I really don't know if that was the final decision. They did actually choose us.
Yay!
No, then it died.
Oh.
And that's where the learning experience came from. So we got all the, we were told that our offer was the one that was getting accepted. And in the meantime, something about the escalation clause, she wasn't comfortable with. I said, well, do you just want me to write a new escalation clause? She goes, yeah, that'd be great. So I fixed that, sent it to the guy. He signed it. I sent it off to her. She goes, okay, I'll have him signed. We'll get back to you soon. And about an hour later, I get a message from her. She goes, I'm so sorry. They decided to go with somebody else. So I guess learning experience there and the thing is, my escalation clause wasn't actually wrong. And the people that I talked to before I verified everything said, this shouldn't even need to happen. But for whatever reason, she thought it was wrong. And so if she had just accepted the very first thing in the morning, we would have signed the deal and been done. But as it turns out, we got screwed.
All right. Well, it was a big win though, because you technically won.
Yeah.
Then you got it stripped away, you know.
Yeah.
Thinking of, anybody watch golf? Do you remember the female putter, the female golfer that lost because of the putter thing, and she accidentally knocked the ball and they took it away from her after she thought she won? I can't remember what her name is, but that's what it's reminding me of. You were so close to the hole and then you got robbed. But the letter thing is important. And in your buyer's consultation right now in this market, in your buyer's consultation, and I think I've shared it with you guys, but if I haven't, I'll share you my buyer's packet. There's a whole piece, like 2 pages in my buyer's packet. One is telling them about the letter. And then the other one is some examples of letters that I've either had buyers give me permission to share, or I found online, figuring that if they're online, they're fair game. But it's really important, and what's really great is if they're actually really interested in being a buyer, they can write a letter to begin with, like before we ever start looking at houses. Then it's really easy for them that, okay, we've seen the house, they want to make an offer, they run back home and they just change a couple things because it has to like match the house, you know. I mean, it has to actually, but things to watch for when you're walking through the house. Yesterday I took a couple through a house, and it was a mom, dad, and daughter, and they are mom, dad, and son. And it looks like this from the family pictures, it looks like their son and the daughter are about the same age. So they ended up not writing an offer, but we talked about their letter, and we talking about the age of their son, you know, anything that you can find in the house that would be a commonality. If they have cute kids, for goodness sakes, put pictures of the cute kids in the pictures. I had one down in Greenwood, and we were not the highest bidder, but much to the listing agent's dismay, we were the ones that they chose because that baby girl is absolutely like a model beautiful. And that was what won the deal because they had built that house and lived in it for 50 years and raised their children in it. And here's a single mom with a sweet little 2-year-old with blonde curls and big blue eyes in these pictures, and mom and daughter selfies, you know, broke their heart, you know. They even had her bring the baby to closing so they could meet her. And the listing agent told me after it was over that we were actually $7,000 lower than the highest escalation cost. So letters make a big difference. So that's a good one. Alexis, can you talk or type us a win? You type us a win. We're going to get started on challenges, and then we'll get your win after you type it in for us. She's not typing. Jill, your big challenge this week, or something you want to talk about, work on.
Oh, I don't know. I just gotta get these action goals done. I just keep putting them on the back burner.
Action goals.
The 411.
The 411 on your GPS. You have got to set your goals. You are not going to know where you're headed. You cannot get there if you don't know where you're headed. Imagine, you've heard me say this again, but I'm going to tell you again. Imagine that you pull out your Waze app or your Google map and you want it to tell you how to get to IKEA, but you don't tell it where IKEA is. How is it going to get you there? We cannot get you there if you don't have a destination. Did you guys like the weekly emails? How'd you feel about those?
Those helped me.
That was my first shot at a coaching smart plan, basically. I did those all on Sunday, and I had them send to me the day before they sent to you, so I made sure there were some things I would change. One thing is that if I send you a link to a Google Docs drive, make a copy. Don't just type over the one that's already in there, because then everybody else gets your stuff and they don't get their own. So you can just download it and make your own copy of it when I put it out there. My coach, Becky's coach that I've been working with, is helping me get a place where you guys can actually put that, where you have your own on the Google Drive, and you can just update, because your 411, you're going to have to update and get to me once a month. So I'm going to get that on the Google Drive so that each of yours is there, and all you have to do is change it, and you don't have to email it to me or whatever.
Hey,
But,
Carla,
yes.
Alexis has her win typed in.
Oh, yay. Who wants to read it?
I'll read it.
Go ahead.
Hi, I would say my win was actually being out in the field for the first time. I put in my first offer. It didn't get accepted. It did give me experience with filling out a purchase agreement.
And she can hear us all.
You can hear it.
Awesome. Let's see. Have you filled out a purchase agreement yet? Have you been on the buy side?
No, but I've done one.
Okay. I need to get you the exercise. There is a purchase agreement exercise, and because I was on vacation this week, I stalled that out. We did the CMA already. So I'll send that to you.
I did fill out my own purchase agreement a
Okay.
couple of days ago.
Yeah, that's what I did.
And my realtor, like, she kind of like fill it out with me, the realtor we've been working with, so that was helpful.
That is awesome. So it's really in the matter of doing it a few times. Once you've done it a few times, it's like no brainer. I mean, I noticed this week I forgot to check a box. Like there's silly little boxes on there like fuel oil. Like, well, there's no fuel oil here. But a contract, for a contract, if there's ever going to be litigation about it, there can't be any blanks in the contract. So that's one of the things that you have to remember, is to fill in those NAs in the blanks if it doesn't apply. But next week we're going to go back to finishing out that purchase agreement exercise, where everybody's going to fill out a purchase agreement and we'll walk through it. That way we make sure, because the last thing you want is, and Alexis will agree with this, the last thing you want is to be thinking, oh my gosh, I have a best and final due at 5 o'clock and it's 4:30 and I've never filled out a purchase agreement before, right? I mean, that's not a fun, let's not have that stress in your life. And so we'll work on that. But yes, Alexis, sometimes both Alexis and Brian, sometimes losses aren't really losses. They're just, I like Brian put it in that learning opportunity category, but it really was a win. You have to focus on what the win there was, is now you know how to win a bid. You know, just sometimes you can't control who's on the other side. And now Alexis knows how to write a bid. The problem that Alexis had, it's not quite the problem that Angie had with her multiple offer. It's just that her buyer wasn't willing to go up over the list price. And in a multiple offer situation, if you're not escalating over the list price, you're probably not gonna. Jay, we've done this too, right? You know, you've got to find that happy. And one of the conversations to have, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, is you can even call the lender and say, all right, if it was $2,000 more, what's that mean for their payment? Let's say that's, I don't know what the math is, but let's say it's $25 more a month. Then I can say, because $2,000 sounds like a lot of money to me, but $25 doesn't necessarily sound as big. So if I said to my buyer, all right, now I just want to make sure that this is good for you. So if you miss this out by $2,000, if it goes up, you know, and you miss out over $2,000, are you going to be comfortable with that? Let me ask you that a different way. Is it worth an extra $25 a month to make sure you could get this house? And sometimes that's what it takes, just to get them to get out of the mindset that it's $2,000 and it's over list price, to thinking it's going to add $20 to my monthly payment. I really love this house. I really want it. Well, is it worth $20 to you to get it? And maybe the answer is no. Maybe they're already at their max out of pocket and they can't go any higher, and that's fine too. You know, your job isn't to make them buy something that they can't afford, but it is your job to make sure that if they really want the house, that you give them the tools and the understanding that they could buy it. Does that make sense?
Hey, Carla?
Yes.
Alexis has a good point on here about worrying about appraisals. It's the last thing on there.
Yeah, so the thing about appraising is if it goes over, like, so let's say that it's listed at 175 and you escalate to 200 and it appraises at 180. So when the appraisal comes back in, there's a clause in the purchase agreement. I'm not sure what paragraph it is right now, but it's in the purchase agreement. And it says basically that, hang on, I got a purchase agreement. Let's find it. All right, I'm gonna let one of you guys look for it and find it. Who wants to be the searcher? Somebody find the appraisal language in here and we'll actually get the actual language. But basically what happens is that if the appraisal comes back at 180, then we have to renegotiate. The lender's not going to let the buyer get a loan for more than the appraisal value for the whatever percentage their down payment is of the appraisal value. And if the buyer doesn't have the cash, then you're out unless they'll renegotiate. And most sellers are going to renegotiate because every buyer is going to have the same situation. And if they had a cash buyer that wasn't getting an appraisal, they would have picked the cash buyer in the multiple offer. It wouldn't have been you. So there's really not a big risk there. I can tell you, I had a really interesting one a couple of months ago. My buyers really wanted this house. They really, really wanted it. And so we put a stupid escalation clause. I mean, I tried to talk about it, but the escalation clause made no sense whatsoever because they didn't have the money to do it. They just wanted to make sure that they had the highest escalation clause so that when it appraised, they would get it. And so we went like 30,000 over list, which was silly because I think list price, the appraisal came in like $1,000 over list price. So whatever, our escalation didn't even trigger. And so, but I talked to the agent on the other side and he said, man, he said, I don't want to do that because that's going to make the appraisal, that's going to make this look really bad. So they countered out the escalation clause. They countered the escalation clause at 5,000 over list. And then that's what we went with. So, but that's a really good question, Alexis, because you do have to, you know, that's the great thing about the escalation clause is I can say, you know, if we go up to 190 and it appraises at 180, you're either going to pay 180 for it, or we aren't going to be able to get it, and we aren't going to be able to get it if we don't put the escalation clause in anyway, so we'll be even up. So there is one downside to that because then they're going to have already paid for the inspection, so they would be potentially out of money. But most people are going to renegotiate to the appraisal value. It's really very rare that comes up. Did you have a question?
Well, I'm gonna say, y'all keep saying escalation clause. What are you doing with the escalation clause on the purchase agreement?
So remember we did that with yours, where we said they have a list price of 175. And so we know that there's going to be multiple offers, that they've asked for best and final. So we already know that there's multiple offers. So we agree that we're going to escalate up to, let's say 180 in $500 increments until we have the highest bid. So in Brian's case, there were 13 offers, you said? So there were 13 offers and there were 13 different escalation clauses. How far up did you go?
Our max was going to be 302 and the highest other offer was 290.
So you would have they would have countered you at 290?
Yeah.
And what was their list price?
275.
275. So it was 275. Everybody, 13 people offered 275, although I usually offer 276 just because I want, they're making stacks. So they got 13 offers, they're making stacks, right? I want to have the highest price. I put 276. If my buyer understands, then we're good.
Our original offer was 280.
You did 280. Yeah, whatever. So you want to be in that stack, right? So if you know there's multiple offers, you want to be in the stack that was higher than the list price, right? That doesn't have to be much. $1,000 over 30 years is not that much, very expensive. And then I'm going to escalate up to whatever my client's comfort zone is, or my pre-approval is. I think that was your issue. We had a pre-approval issue maybe on yours, or maybe that was Alexis's that we talked about. So we're gonna escalate up to that. We don't have to pay 302 for it. Brian had it up to 302, but he was only gonna have to pay 290 for it because that was the highest number. It's a game. It is absolutely a game. One of our workshops, not next Saturday, but maybe Saturday after next, we're gonna do multiple offers, and because there's lots of little tricks that we can go through to make sure that when they're making these stacks of offers, that ours always stays in the favorable pile. Because it's
our realtor strategy too, when we wrote one, was she didn't cap it, which made me nervous at first, but she was saying that if ours was chosen, they'd have to counter and then say like, what was the cap? Is that?
yeah, there's two different schools on that.
Okay.
As a listing agent, I don't like to see a non-cap because I want to know how high they really would go.
Right.
Because if I picked them as a non-cap and then find out that they were only approved to here,
right.
I took 2 classes on this, and that is not like the favorable from the listing agent side. So you have to remember the person that you really have to convince first is the listing agent. And there are other things like I cap my inspection response. So I put language in there, if my buyer's okay with it, that says that the buyer won't ask for any repairs on any single item unless the repair or the replacement is over $3,000. So that way they know they're not going to get any Mickey Mouse things in the inspection. I want my, because there are some agents that recommend in a multiple offer, they do no inspection. I don't like that. I've heard of people do as is. I don't want an as is. As a seller, I do not want an as is deal. So that's going to go on the waste pile automatically. Other waste pile, Quicken Loans, bad. And the other thing is that I would call the lenders, from the seller's perspective. If I had multiple offers and I'm trying to pick, I'm going to call all the lenders. I'm going to say, how confident are you that this is going to close? I had a multiple offer that I lost. And 2 weeks after the deal was done, she called me and said, they never sent their earnest money. So we'll go with you. And I was like, well, that's okay. We're already under contract on another property. So sorry. And you make sure you were going to get the earnest money. Call the realtor and say, do you have the earnest money in hand? Because I'm not going to pick your offer if you don't have the earnest money in hand. So I have my buyers go ahead and write their earnest money check. We'll void it if they don't win. But that way I can tell the agent, I send a copy with my purchase agreement. I have the earnest money right here. So that way they don't have to worry about that. So there's all kinds of tips and tricks we can do there. Let's see, you had a listing agent tell me that the seller wanted the buyers to pay the difference if it doesn't appraise. Well, I'm sure they want that. But most buyers can't do that. So if they had a multiple offer situation and there was a buyer that agreed to pay the difference, then you're not going to win. I mean, you can definitely talk to your buyers about that. Do you have the extra $5,000 to cover it? If you do, great, you know, but I'm not really wanting to suggest that my buyers necessarily pay more than an appraisal for
Puts me
anything.
in a bad, it just gives you that bad. I just talked to my clients about this last night. I'm like, listen, I said, we can put the escalation costs, we can do all this stuff, but in the end of the day, you have to be comfortable with the purchase, and are you going to be comfortable with the purchase upside down? Like any other, you're paying more than what it's worth, just like a car or anything else. Do you really want to go into a home doing that? So
Well,
it's up to them to choose, I guess.
it absolutely is, but it's up to you to inform.
Mm-hmm.
And that's your job as their fiduciary. Remember, you have a fiduciary responsibility. So your job is to inform. And the other thing, I think about this every time I take a buyer through a house that they're going to buy. I figure I've got to sell this house in what? How long? Anybody remember?
5 years.
5 to 7 years. I'm going to have to sell this house, right? Because I'm going to keep my client forever.
Mm-hmm.
So in 5 to 7 years, I'm going to have to sell this house. If we've overpaid for it, how am I going to sell it? Right? So, that's my mindset. My mindset is these are my clients for life. And well, now they're your clients for life because my clients now are all your clients, but we're going to have to sell them. We're going to have to sell this house. Now they may be like me and never move, but it's still my mindset. So I want to have that conversation with you. If you need to resell. Oh, I had this conversation yesterday. I have buyers that are on the fence about if they want new construction or if they want existing. And so we went and looked at a new neighborhood that has currently building, but has a house that is being sold. Now, it's probably a sad story. It's probably a divorce or COVID related, loss of job kind of situation. But the conversation I had to have is if you're going to do this, you need to make sure that you're going to be here for a while, because most people aren't going to buy this house the way somebody else wanted it when they can build for the same price or less, right? Exactly what they want. So, the resale here is not great. And they're not, and for whatever reason, they don't have it listed in a way that it's a discounted price. So, but I feel like it's my job to make them see into the future, see outside of sitting in the living room, because, and they told me they have a 2-year-old and they told me, this is their home for 16 years. Well, then we'll be good. Hopefully this neighborhood will be built out in 16 years. We'll be all right. It's Franklin Township. It won't take that long. Okay. Yeah. So that is always a concern of being able to sell when the time came. And that's, in the end, it's the buyer has to weigh it. If they really, really want this house, then they got to figure out what they want to do. And again, you got to go back to $1,000 or $2,000. How important is $1,000 to $2,000 weighed against, I really want to buy this house? And the other thing is, it's really hard. Brian will tell you, right? It's really hard to tell your client you didn't get it. So, I always say, nobody ever believes me, but I promise this just means it wasn't the right house for you, and we'll find the right house for you. I mean, that's my line. Most of the time I believe it. Sometimes I'm a little heartbroken. I'm heartbroken too, because it was an awesome house. All right. So your challenge is going to have something to do with this relocation people, huh?
Because they want to put an offer in. I said, I'll put one in, but just understand that they could automatically reject it because we have
They don't even have to reject it. They can just ignore it, and let it expire.
And I talked to her on the phone. The other agent's super nice lady, and she was trying to give me hints and ideas of what we can try to do and hope they will take it.
All right, so let's talk about those.
So she told me about the recasting. She said, the letter, which they already have created the letter. She mentioned full price, give a full price offer. That would probably help. And then I also thought maybe, I did talk to my client last night and I did say, can you put a big earnest money down? Because that will help them know that we are very serious.
Yeah.
So how much can you put down? So I'm supposed to get a text message this morning that tells me how much they're willing to put down, because at first they're like, well, what's the minimum? I said, yeah, 1%, but that's not going to get it for us.
I said, until you do
It's their
this, we're-
insurance policy. Explain to them, it's your insurance policy. The other thing is they need to make a promise as to when they're gonna have their house on the market. So they need to put in their letter, you know, we're working on getting our house together to sell. We didn't expect to find the perfect house right off the bat. Now we found the perfect house and we're working as hard as possible to get our house ready to sell, but we're not going to be able to list until whatever date. And this is our goal, is to list by this date. That lets the relocation company know, how long has it been on the market?
30 days, 31 days.
So at least it's not been on the market 2 days.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
For good enough.
But the other thing is, when I was talking to the agent last night, she said, well, she goes, we've looked at it twice, because not the whole group couldn't come the first time. So we went the second time. And in between the times we went, another agent took their client in there and said, they're interested, possibly will do a offer, but they want to look at some other houses. Please let them know if an offer comes in, because it's going to be at least 2 offers.
Well, then it's not going to be a multiple. What that's going to end up being is it's either going to trigger. So you're going to make an offer. You're going to make an offer that is a first right. And then they're going to come in and make an offer, and that's going to trigger your first right. You're going to have 24, 48 hours, however long you write that in, to either remove the contingency and move forward or walk away.
Okay.
So
It's on the purchase agreement, right?
it's in the first right. So it's in that you're going to do a contingency and a contingency addendum. It's not actually in that purchase
Oh, is
agreement.
it
It's in the
okay.
addendum, the contingency addendum.
Okay.
But they just need to understand that. Why can't they just list the house?
I don't know. I said, can we just? I went into it. Honestly, we can't. The way it's sitting there now, that stuff has got to get out of there. I was walking through.
You can't.
boxes.
You can list it.
I guess you can, but can I get?
You're not going to get. They have to understand if they want this house, they're going to have to get it listed, and that means they probably aren't going to get the maximum value out of it. They've got to decide how bad they want this house.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I'm going to have the same conversation that I had with Brian with you, is at some point you're going to have to stop and set some boundaries. Like, I cannot keep showing you houses until you're ready to buy a house.
And I did mention that to him. I said, listen, and they always keep apologizing because I have to drive all the way to Carmel every time.
So's Brian. He's
Every
been doing-
time.
You guys are both, maybe you guys should carpool. You guys
We
could
should
coordinate
start,
this and carpool. Good morning, Mindy.
We should. But
Good morning.
But I did have the conversation with him that, listen, if you guys aren't, and I asked him yesterday, what'd you get done in the house today? Well, we planned. No, I already planned. I already told you to plan what to do. I need you to do.
Yeah, I think you're just going to have to frank conversation about, you know what, this isn't fair to you. This, to me, you're my client, okay? This really isn't fair to you that we keep going looking at houses, because you get your heart set on something that I can't get for you. So let's focus all of our efforts on getting your house listed, and then we can go back to looking at houses. That doesn't make it about you and your time and you have to drive to Carmel, but it still sets the boundaries and the expectations. And I'm doing it for your benefit, because I hate breaking your heart over and over again.
And I did say that to him last night. I said, listen, I need you to understand that I don't want to give you that bad news when they call me back and say, no, we didn't take your offer because of contingency. I've already had to do it once. You guys were so set on this home, and I had to give the bad news. I go, I don't want to do that to you guys.
Yeah.
I even had that with him last night. Please, all your time needs to be on getting this house cleaned out.
Yeah.
And
So when they call and want to see the next house, just say, you know what, we're really going to have to get your house on the market first. So otherwise they'll just drag you along forever because they are indecisive. So,
Mhm.
all right, we're getting close to Tim time, but tell me what your challenge was, Miranda.
Probably lots. I guess, does anybody have any open house tips? Because I have another one today. Has anybody done an open house?
I've done many of them.
Have any?
Have fun. It depends on what stage you're having an open house, I think.
Yeah, okay.
I've watched a lot of different open house techniques. It's about preparation the 2 or 3 days beforehand. So if it's your open house, then the whole mega open house thing, make sure you got enough signs pointing directly to where you want them to come to from a couple different
Those are in my car, by the way.
Okay.
A couple different angles,
Okay.
different ways. So that, and then just properly make sure that you're spreading the news that you're
Okay.
having an open house in the area, and then just with other agents.
Did you see the 7 levels of open house that I emailed you? That's what Jay's talking about. You know, when you find out on Wednesday that you're doing an open house on Thursday, there's not a lot you can do, right?
Yeah.
Just go and hope that somebody shows up.
Yeah.
Put some signs out. That's what we did for you on Thursday.
Yeah.
Even now, you got an open house tomorrow, which I'm assuming was Brian's open house, and the virus got Miranda an open house.
I have one today. Mine's today.
Oh, is it today?
Yeah.
Today I had 1 to 3 that I had.
1 to 3. Yeah, okay, that's the one.
Oh.
It was going to be Brian's, but Brian's quarantined now, so that's how you got that open house.
Is it on Yucatan?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Have fun.
Brian, give her your best tip for an open house.
I do 2, 3, or 4 Facebook Live videos while I'm there.
Oh.
And I will often kind of do sort of a teaser video at first, just showing the outside of the house and inviting people to show up. And then throughout the time when I'm there, I'll do a video, either point out something specific, a cool part of the house, or eventually get to like a whole house tour if I can. So if you have time, obviously if you're busy, that's a good thing. That's a good problem to have, but that's one of the things that I do.
Cool. Okay. Thanks.
That's a great tip.
That video presentation is always good for me too.
Yeah.
Not just for the actual day of the open house, but afterwards.
Okay.
Everybody see the video I put up, they love it. So,
Yeah. And then they might not have even come to the open house, but they might
See it.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people love to see.
Well, not only that, it reminds them that you're a realtor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just throwing it.
You
out
know,
there.
even throw that at the end. This may not be the house for you, but I'd love to help you find the house you're looking for.
Yeah.
Also take to the open house with you a list of other open houses in the area.
Okay.
And it's kind of like a gift at the end. I sent you my sign-in sheet. I put that on a clipboard and I give that to them when they walk in the door. And I don't make it about giving me their information. I make it about helping the sellers out by giving some feedback on the house, because what they're looking for is what maybe they need to work on to be able to sell the home. They will fill out the top usually. And if they don't, when they hand it back to you, say, oh, thank you. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't get your name. What was your name? Oh, could you tell me what your email is? Even if you can't read it, just say, I want to make sure I got your email right. If they tell you they have an agent, then write the agent name on there, but don't discard them. I mean, they don't want to feel like, oh, I have an agent. I don't want to talk, I don't want to talk to me. So I treat the people that have an agent almost the exact same as the other people, because I'm going to do my follow-up with them afterwards. So even if they have an agent, you could still say, hey, I have this open house sheet. They may say they have an agent and they don't really, right? They just don't want to be sold. Like, I don't go look at a car on Saturdays. I go on Sundays because I know there aren't any salespeople there, and I don't want to talk to the salespeople when I look in the windows of cars. Right? They're coming to an open house and they're going to tell you they have an agent. They may not. So treat them really nicely, and they may call you later and say, you know what, it turns out I don't have an agent.
So do you still give them a card if they have an agent? Sometimes
It's
I
all
don't. I
on
give
the
them
table.
everything except the card.
It's all on the table. They can take anything that they want.
Oh, okay.
You can give them a card and say, give this to your agent.
Okay. Because what I do is when I kind of stand, I don't stand like right at the door, but I'm like off to the side a little bit sometimes, and then I have the actual flyer I made, the MLS sheet, and then I have my card, and I introduce myself, and I ask them if they have an agent. Usually if they say, and this may not be the right tactic to do, but if they have an agent, I say, okay, that's great, here's the information on the house, and then I just don't give them a card, so that, and then I kind of explain to them the reason why we ask is because, we don't want to step on, anybody else's toes. We're, all kind of in this together. And
So you're not having them fill out a sheet?
yeah, they fill out my
Okay.
sheet, yeah.
Because I put the MLS sheet. I put the MLS sheet on the clipboard underneath the sheet that I need them to fill out. So they cannot ignore the sheet that I want them to fill out, because what they want is underneath it.
I just have them, I have a little sign that I put out on the table with my sign-in sheet there.
Oh, you have a sign-in sheet.
Yeah.
So mine's individual because it asks about the house and everything. And I'll tell you
Which I
what,
like
from a
better.
seller, and then
I would-
you want to impress, I don't know, is this Becky's listing, Brian?
I think so.
Yeah. But, you know, here's the thing is when it's over and you got these 4 or 5 sheets and there was actually feedback for the home, scan those to Becky. Say, I had 4 or 5 people come and here's their comments, because the seller really does want to know that. I mean, that helps a lot, because it's horrible when I have to say, well, I'm sorry, nobody came. You know, well, I know but I did that, you know, away. I said, it's a Thursday night. You never know. Thursday nights are iffy. I've had Thursday nights that were just amazing. And then I've had really bad Thursday night showings, open houses. It's just, I take work with me. I get stuff done. It's not like a waste of my time. It's all good. But, all right. Jay challenge. Tim is here.
Is he here?
I think so.
Let me go get him.
Let me make sure that was what I saw. Yep, he's here. Yes.
DocuSign, working my tools through the KW command, getting all that stuff kind of straightened out. The biggest challenge is trying to make sure that I'm working the system like a KW agent and not with what I've already learned how to do. That's kind of been my challenge lately, is getting to
Our words.
Yes, because this whole escalation clause thing is like, what are you talking about? Why are you putting an escalation clause in the purchase agreement anyway?
Well, we talked about that the first week you came, because you weren't winning any winning any multiple offers, so nobody ever. Well, maybe we'll do that next. Would you guys want to do that next Saturday for the workshop? Maybe sooner rather than later. All right, next Saturday we'll do multiple offers.
Yeah, that would be hard because I go into it just fresh, like, you know, but if you already have
As we're talking about,
experience.
can you send us your buyer's presentation?
Oh, you need that again?
So like, what have I missed? That's the other thing. Like, I've missed a lot.
Well, you're gonna do Ignite. Ignite's gonna help you a lot.
Yeah.
And as far as DocuSign goes, I know you're doing the 60-60 challenge, but you can always skip around with Marty too. I mean, if I'm trying to figure something out, the very first thing I do is I Google Marty Miller 66-day challenge, whatever I'm trying. Right now I'm working on team functionality because I am getting us all set up on a team. So I'll put, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Well, we're going to stop here and let Tim jump in, and then we'll wrap up when Tim is done.
Where's the camera? Where am I?
The camera's right here.
All right.
There's a little hot seat right here.
That's the hot seat.
That's the hot seat. If you sit in the hot seat, they can probably see you,
Okay.
and you can see you too. So this is Tim, and these are all fabulous new to Keller Williams agents.
Okay.
So we have multiple or various different experiences.
Okay.
Some of them are brand new and haven't had a transaction yet.
Mhm.
Some of them have lots of first-time home buyers and are really excited to hear what you have to say.
Okay.
So
Good deal.
nice group. And then we have about 6 people who couldn't be here today, so this is being recorded, and I'm
Okay.
going to send it to them.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Like Carlos said, I'm Tim. I'm with First Merchants Bank. Been in the business about 18 years, so seen quite a bit. But Carla has asked me to come talk today about one particular product that we have that's designed for first-time home buyers, which is actually pretty unique in the market. It's a 100% financing product. It's not down payment assistance. It's a really strong product for the first-time home buyer. It's a fixed interest rate. I'm going to email all this to you too, just so you know. It's a fixed interest rate with no PMI, and we offer a $2,000 grant to go towards closing costs with it, or a $7,500 grant to go towards closing costs. $7,500 grant is higher in certain areas in Marion County. They're kind of targeted areas within Marion County, which I'll send you a map on that as well. But even without the $7,500 grant, the product is phenomenal. It's a really, really, really strong product. It's not necessarily a product for bad credit buyers. You know, it's not targeted for bad credit buyers, but we do go down to a 600 credit score. A couple quirky things that I see with the product It's got some restrictions, 100% financing. We wired things pretty tight, as Carla can attest to. And why my hair is getting gray or grayer every day.
I'm not taking credit for any of that.
You have to have rental history. So we like to see an 18-month rental history. So somebody living at home with parents and they don't have any rental history, it's probably not going to work for them unless they have some really good, strong compensating factors, like 25 grand in the bank and an 800 credit score. So rental history is a big thing. We don't like overdraft fees in checking accounts, which nobody does, but we really, really nitpick them. So if you have more than 2 or 3 in a 12-month period, we don't like it. Those are the 2 really big things that I see that prohibit customers from being able to take advantage of the product that would otherwise qualify. What do you say?
We've had problems with the cohabiting non-borrower income.
That has gone away.
Oh, okay.
So there's an income limit on the product, $65,000. So, which is pretty, liberal in my opinion.
Absolutely.
So we only use the qualifying income of the borrower. You don't read my emails, or you would have known.
Oh, was it
that
this
went away.
week? I've been on vacation.
I'm kidding. So it used to be household income, no matter who was on the loan, we'd have to count everything, but now it's just the borrower. So if you have someone making 65 grand a year with a card payment and a couple credit cards, they can probably on this loan product purchase a home, $250,000, $300,000. So that's a nice feature too, but it is income restricted.
That they have to be making at least 65 or
No,
under
it's the
65?
limit.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the
Oh, that's
limit.
the max. that
Yeah,
you
that's
can
the
go.
maximum.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's an infinite. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, well.
So it's targeted for first-time home buyers or what's considered low to moderate income home buyers. So 65,000 is considered moderate income, which kind of.
So they don't
surprises me.
have to be first time. Do they have to be first time? They have to be first time.
There are some areas in Marion County where they don't have to be
That's
first-time
the
home buyers.
$7,500.
Yes.
They don't have to be.
I
Correct.
said we will have this video.
Uh-huh.
What you saying?
He's
Yeah.
also going to mail you. Well, he'll email me some information.
Yeah,
that I'll
I have a
send to you
whole
guys.
email set up. It's has a PDF, 4 or 5 pages of a lot of stuff that I think you'll find beneficial. And it'll show how to get in touch with me. If you have a customer that wants to look at the loan product, the best thing to do is to just get them in touch with me ASAP. So I got to look at their credit before I can really do anything. I sit there and talk on the phone with somebody for a half hour and, it's pointless because I can't tell them anything concrete. But the program's awesome. I can sit here and talk about it all day.
And just so you know, because I spent an entire day doing this, I have matrix searches set up for all of the areas that are the $7,500 ones. So at any given time, we can pull up all the houses that most likely qualify.
Yep.
It's kind of hard because
It
the
is.
boundaries are a little odd and I had to draw them all on the map.
Yeah.
So I'll send it to you and say, does this one qualify? Because you must have some place where you can just
Yeah.
put the address in and it tells
I
you.
do.
But I had to draw them out on the search. So if you end up with somebody who qualifies for this, who would really like to see if they could find a house in that 7,500, I don't know how to give you my map drawings, but we can definitely just use my matrix and you guys we can set up you in a search that you can then forward to your clients.
I also have a link now where you can view an interactive map. It's pretty clunky. You have to do it from a laptop or a desktop. You can't do it from your phone. But it's nice. And it's by census tract. So in Realist, you can actually search by census tract. That's what I use anyway.
You just can't set up an automatic search like you can in Matrix. Like it'll alert me now if there's a new property.
Gotcha. But I've seen a lot of real estate agents take this new and go and just run with it. And, that's all they do.
Is it
Right.
in Marion County?
Well, no, it's the Indianapolis MSA, which is Marion County and all the hub counties.
The collar counties.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So In Marion County is where all the $7,500 grants are.
On the north side of Indianapolis is where all the 7,500 grants are. There aren't any on the south
No,
side.
there's nothing south of, yeah, there really isn't. It's all north and Warren Township, Pike Township. You know, I've done $400,000 loans with this, you know, it just depends on, you know, where the home.
What you'll find
falls.
is there'll be like 10 houses in this area where you're like, and then there's one and it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, we lost
Right.
one that was a great one.
Yeah. So,
How does that work if they only have $65,000 of income, but they're buying a $400,000 house?
Well, there's no income
no
restriction
income
for the
limits
7,500.
in those
Oh,
certain
okay.
areas. Yeah, yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
goal in those certain areas
Okay.
is to get people to come in and invest in those areas. So a lot of the homes in those areas need renovating.
Yeah.
But what happens is there are homes that somebody's come in and flipped. So you just have to be able to,
Right.
you just have to be willing to, in
Yeah,
order
dig
to
in a
be in
little
those areas, you have to be willing to incubate a little bit. You have to be
Right.
willing to wait for, and then the other problem sometimes in those neighborhoods has been the appraisal.
Is it different for, is it owner occupied or is it investor or is it?
Owner occupied only. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
is it a silent second?
Well, the $2,000 is a silent second, forgiven after 5 years fully.
Do you guys know what that means, a silent second?
Second mortgage.
Yeah, it's basically a lien on the property for $2,000. If you sell it within the first 5 years, you got to pay back that $2,000. But it's forgiven by 20% each year. So it doesn't really stop people from doing it. The $7,500 is a gift. And there's no second. It's, you know, you could go, I actually had a lady buy a house last November, use the $7,500. She's selling her house right now, doesn't have to pay it back. You know, bought a house for 70 grand. I think she's selling it now for like 110.
The nice thing with Tim is that if something happens and this product doesn't work, he has some other options.
That's the other thing too.
So,
Yeah.
so where we've had deals that, well, we've had some we've lost just because the buyer was unreasonable, but
Yeah, it wasn't the bank's fault.
did you talk to her, by the way, about this new change? Rachel?
Rachel Nichols.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah,
About the
sorry, I didn't
boyfriend.
mention her last name. Have to
Uh-huh,
bleep
it's
that out. I think I have, as a
Okay.
matter of fact. I'll check
All
it out. I'll check it out. But yeah, we have down payment assistance through IHCDA in the Indiana Housing, which is kind of a last resort, but it serves a purpose. We have HOP funds available.
Still?
Yeah, we still do.
Oh,
$8,000. The income restrictions on that are a little bit different.
do you guys know what that is?
It's a federal home loan bank that gives you $8,000 for low or moderate income borrowers. That can be used for down payment, closing costs, whatever it might be. So,
And it's a silent second.
yeah, correct. And those are usually released every spring. And then when they run out, they run out. Each bank is allotted a certain amount. First Merchants Bank happens to be a big player in the HOP funds, and we get a lot of money. I've worked at other institutions, bigger banks, where they're gone in 2 days. And with First Merchants, it usually runs to about August or September. So that's a nice option too. And we have some amazing interest rates too. I quoted a 30-year fixed rate yesterday with 5% down at 3%
Wow.
fixed.
So here's some selling points to remember. So there's no PMI. That's a big deal. You
Right.
know, FHA, you've got PMI. You know, you got PMI forever unless you refinance. And you don't want to get a 3% loan, FHA loan, or a 4% FHA loan and think that 5 years from now I'm going to have to refinance that. What am I going to do? So
Right.
this is a really good option not to have PMI. The other thing is the appraisals. So if it doesn't work out,
We don't charge the customer for the appraisal up front.
so it's like
We
Keller
eat
Mortgage
it.
in that regard.
We eat it. So they only pay for it if they go to closing, and typically if they go to closing, we're paying for it anyway through the grant. Another big thing, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was gonna say, can you use this kind of with a 2 or 3K loan?
No, cannot. So it's its own product. So it's its own separate loan product. So the home can't have to have work.
Okay.
You know, it can have cosmetic stuff, as long as it's habitable, there's no code violations, things of that nature. It's going to be okay. We require the customer to have an inspection and a termite inspection, but we do not look at the inspections. We just want the invoice. To
The,
show
the
that they had it
appraiser, it's
done.
not quite like FHA, but if it's not good, the appraiser is going to come back. We've had that and
And we'll
say
nitpick it.
there's some issues here.
We-
But the solution is what we were talking about this morning, which is we can get the seller to pay for it and make the check cut payable to the contractor at closing.
Right.
And that way the seller doesn't have to have the funds to repair. So there's a way to make it work.
Last thing we want, or probably you want, is to put your first time home buyer into a home with no down payment and there's a questionable roof. You know, yeah, it's just not what we want on our books.
Or a crumbling foundation
Crumbling
or,
foundation,
you know,
yeah,
anything
exactly.
like that.
Exactly. So the other big thing before I forget is on student loans, we'll use an income-based repayment. Somebody with student loans, you got $100,000 in student loans and you're on a $0 income-based repayment plan, we will use that $0 to qualify that. A lot of, like on an FHA loan right now, if you have 100 grand in student loans, you're gonna have to count that as a $1,000 liability, monthly liability from the customer. So that is huge. That is huge.
So it has to be habitable. They have to be able to move in at closing. You know, it has to be, I mean, it can't be, you know, a tear down or a fix and flip or anything like
Missing
that.
bathroom or, you know.
You know, it's got to meet all those standards that you would have in an FHA loan, basically. But even the ones that are in the $7,500 neighborhoods that I have shown, you know, they were livable. I mean, they probably weren't livable the way people wanted to live in them,
Right.
but they were livable, you know, and then they just have to do the renovations one room at a time, right? You know, and then they're going to have a great home that's going to have resale value and a lot of equity down the road.
Yep.
So it doesn't work for everybody.
Nope.
But it's a really, really good option. Do you want to tell them some just basic guidelines of how they can identify their buyers in their database that might be good fits for
I
you?
was gonna ask about like work history, like do they have to have their job for 2 years?
So no, but we don't want to see no more than 4 jobs in the most recent 2 years. If they have more than a 30-day job gap, we want to know why. You know, 30-day job gap, really no big deal unless they have 4 late credit card payments during that job gap, you know, so that can be an issue. But we like to see stability on income. But I have people that start a job, you know, June 1st and we close June 20th, you know, because they were at their prior job for 3 years. So we're going to look at the whole overall picture. The biggest thing, again, I'll go back to it, is rent. Do you have a rental history? And that helps me out up front. If they don't have any rental history, we're going to have some hurdles. Like I said, no rental history, okay, but I do have, you know, I've been living at home and I've got $8,000 saved up. We like that, you know, pattern of savings, and they've got a 680 credit score, and, you know, they paid on their auto loan on time, and their debt to income ratio is not real high, you know, so we're going to try to make sense of all of that.
How about if somebody has like a year rental history, but then lived with like a family before, but then has like rental history before?
Great question. So
Like,
we'll look at prior rental history. Doing that now where a customer has lived with her brother for 3 years because she was going back to school and working. But in her apartment, before that, she had lived there, I think, 4 years. So we got a verification of rent and we were comfortable with it. So we will do a lot of make sense stuff. We really will. If it makes sense, if someone's got 12 overdrafts in their checking account and they can explain it and everything else is really good, we want to be fair and we'll do it. But if someone's got 12 overdrafts, no rental history, suspect credit, and has had 3 jobs, it's not going to work. You know, we're not going to get an exception on something like that.
how about like COVID furloughs?
That's fine.
and stuff
Yeah,
like
we just
that?
have to, you know, explain it, you know, so we're very, we've got to stay compliant, but we're very open-minded to, you know, situations going on beyond everybody's control. We like to ask for a lot of explanations on things. You know, First Merchants is a really conservative bank, so it's kind of out of the ordinary for them to be doing something like this, but it's a community initiative. So we like to wire things tight. I don't think it's ever completely unreasonable what we ask for, but it's not going to be like, if you have a customer that has 20% down with an 800 credit score, it's not going to be that simple. There's some additional steps involved, but I like to keep everybody updated. I think I do a halfway decent job of it. Setting realistic expectations and keeping everybody in the loop.
And what we do to help, I try to do to help is remind the buyer that they owe Tim things, because sometimes they think, well, he didn't ask 3 times, he didn't really need it.
Right,
I'm not sure what they think, but
That's
I'll
good.
have to say,
Good advice.
yesterday I sent an email, okay, we just got the appraisal, so we've hit the last hurdle, except for the things that Tim's waiting on you
Right,
for.
There's only so
So-
much I can do as far as, telling them. It's kind of like a, lead a horse to water, can't make him drink kind of situation. But Carla is great at checking in with me, and then I'm pretty good at keeping her up to date if there's an issue. So as long as you're touching your customer and your loan officer, no matter who you're working with, I'd say probably weekly, if not more. That's a good thing for you, just so you're completely in the know, instead of just getting the purchase agreement and your customer says they sent the loan officer everything and thinking that's good. I think you just need to inspect it. That'd be some good advice that I could offer.
I have a question that came up this morning that I don't know the answer to with you. Because my go-to has always been Union Savings in this type of situation, but you guys do like not out of the first-time home buyer. This is where we've got a house to sell and we want to buy a house and we have a lot of equity.
Swing loan.
Do you guys do
Absolutely.
those? There you go.
Absolutely.
Angie.
You called it a
Talk
swing loan?
Yeah, it's called a swing loan or
Swing?
swing. Some people call it a bridge loan.
Bridge.
We call it a swing loan.
Okay.
I don't do a lot of them, so I can't speak intelligently to it, but it's an option. I think we can swing like up to 80% of the loan to value of the property that they're selling as a down payment. I don't know the exact terms of it, but if you email me, if you have a need, I can look at it.
She does have a need.
Okay.
I do.
This might be the solution.
Maybe.
Because then their motivation to get the house ready to sell is going to be they're paying this extra payment.
Right. Exactly.
So I do have a quick question, only because it's kind of personal for Nick. So I have a son that's a real estate agent. He's just not here today because he's sick. He's never gotten credit cards. We've always made sure, we kind of follow the Dave Ramsey way of doing things. And I don't know how high his credit score is. Will you kind of look at that if he's not had any
Yeah.
credit cards or anything? We'll have to go another route.
So
I mean, I just know his, but I know I've had some other people talk
Yeah.
about, they just don't.
alternative credit references.
Okay.
So they're paying on something somewhere.
Yeah, he's got this. In
Yeah.
this case, student. So yeah.
Student loans, rent, car insurance, cell phone,
Okay.
utility bills.
Okay. So just
Um,
anything that they're paying. on.
Yeah, anything they're paying on. We can't use Netflix, Hulu. I had someone try to do DoorDash one time. I'm like, what?
Yes, we're paying. That's huge.
Yeah, you have to pay for it in advance.
Or you don't get anything.
Right.
iTunes. Here's my iTunes account.
Okay, so
So-
the alternative.
Yeah,
Okay.
and again, that's going to come back to, we really like to see rental history, because that's a biggie. Without rental history, that's a problem. But if if his overall situation is pretty good, otherwise we can always look at it.
Okay.
And again, we always go back to, do you have some money set aside? I mean, you're not paying rent. The expectation is if you're not paying rent and you're fiscally responsible, you should have something in the bank somewhere. You don't need to have $127,000, but you should have more than 19 cents
Or nothing.
or nothing. Right. Right.
Negative's bad too, right?
Yeah, negative's
Okay,
never
just-
really good. But we've overcome that too. I had a lady who may or may not be a client of somebody in this room who had, negative $60 in her bank account, but she's getting a grant and she was able to easily explain why her last bank account ended negative, and it made a whole lot of sense. And it's the only overdraft that she's had. We went back a couple years and showed this was a fluke. Here's what happened. So
What is the minimum credit score right now?
600.
600 is the number.
Yeah.
Just
so,
really low because it's 640 everywhere else.
That's what I figured,
Yeah.
630, 640.
so if you're 600, there's a reason for it, right? But what's the reason? A credit card late payment 3 years ago, and you've got 11 medical collections last year. No big deal.
What about discharge bankruptcy?
3 years. Where most you're gonna see 2 years. 3 years on a 13 or a 7.
3 years out.
Yeah. That's one of our quirky things. If you've had more than one bankruptcy, we won't touch it. No matter when it was.
Who would? No.
Well, it's
know
weird. Things
No,
happen.
I don't mean that. I mean, who would touch it? I wouldn't give him money
Yeah.
either.
Well, you know what though? There's
Still not learning
I've
for some
seen-
reason.
I've seen people with 780 credit scores that have had 3 bankruptcies.
Without even having a house yet.
Right.
That's scary.
Circumstance. We don't.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around that. So
Yeah, me
but we'll go with that.
You need some financial courses.
Yeah.
Tim, what was your last name again?
That's undisclosed. I'm kidding.
Okay, I'll just keep calling all the Tims at first. Until I get over it.
It's Diersing. It's Diersing.
Excellent. Thank you.
And only one person, like the only person on the loan has to be under the 65,000.
Correct.
But
Correct.
you could have somebody else living in the
Yep.
house, married to that person, making more money.
100.
They just can't be on the loan.
Correct. So it used to be, husband makes 40 grand a year, spouse makes 40 grand a year, they make 80, they're over.
Right.
But they only wanted to buy a $135,000 house. So if we can qualify them with just one customer, one of their incomes, then we're good.
Are they still on like the title?
Cannot be on the
Can't be on
deed
anything.
either.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's whoever on the note. So if you're on the deed, no, it's whoever on the mortgage. So if you're on the deed, we have to look at the income. There's nothing to say that they can't add themselves to the deed.
Quit claim later.
Later. Or if they're married, typically, I'm not giving legal advice, but if something happens, it's going to go to the spouse, by default.
Kind of outside the box question.
I like this guy. He's got a lot of outside the box stuff.
And so I'm the husband.
Okay.
House is in my name.
Mm-hmm.
Another's in my wife's name.
Mm-hmm.
Can she get another residential property?
No, we're going to look into it. Because here's what we're going to say. What's your rental history? She didn't have one. Okay, why not? I live with my husband. Who owns a house?
But you said we could have
Spirit. It's the
some
spirit.
kind of, she pays all the other bills, I just pay the mortgage.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
We're not
no.
gonna
Get
do
around
it.
it.
Not in the spirit. It's not, I like it, and because that's come up, and I've fought for it, but it's not in the spirit of the product.
It takes funds away from people.
Well,
who
I
are
was
really
thinking,
wanting-
we were thinking about recently building a house.
Yeah.
And the house down the street from ours just sold for $280.
Mhm.
So that gives me almost 40, 50 grand to play with.
Mhm.
So if we can get the house, the new house being built in her name,
Mhm.
while I sell the house that's in my name,
Mhm.
take that money, do a swing loan.
Right.
It would
Just
make
not with
sense.
this
The wheels are
product.
I'm just-
turning over
I'm
here.
just, you know,
Right, so what they're basically saying is, hey, this is designed for
First time.
needs-based, and in your situation,
Yeah.
you're not.
You wouldn't have that. You have
Yeah.
the down payment because you got the equity in the house.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
What you need to do is file for a divorce. You
well,
can show that,
She's
well,
gonna
they're-
like that
they're-
idea.
it's a
can't
dis-
be saying that
it's a
too much,
displaced
you know, I don't know.
spouse, and
No,
This conversation's gotten a whole new level.
just think about that.
you might not be sending out this recording.
I'm gonna have to get somebody to edit the recording now. Thanks, guys.
Done.
That was all said in jest. That was not
Wasn't
serious.
jest. It wasn't
The
jest.
spirit of the loan is.
This is how we know if anybody watches the recording.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct. That's correct.
Awesome. Did you bring them all cards?
I did. I'll grab some cards. I'll leave them with you, and then I will email you,
Yeah,
My-
I'll forward to everybody.
and you can just forward it out, and then.
Are you local? Like, really?
Well, I actually work from home most of the time, and I have an office in Greenwood, and I'm opening an office. We're opening an office downtown. So I'm as local as you need me to be. Yeah.
How many- How many Ball
Yeah.
State? How many Ball? Because it's a first merchant's Muncie. How many Ball State grads are here? None.
Me.
I thought I had a chirp somewhere.
It's a great company to do business with. It really is. So, And
What?
I'm
I
always,
sing your praises because I've told you, and you know, I'll tell you what, sometimes it goes bad. This is my favorite thing about Tim. Sometimes it doesn't go right. Sometimes we've had a couple that have fallen apart. We've had a couple that we both hung on like crazy to hang on to the very end. And we've had a couple of mishaps and missteps, but Tim is with me as a partner all the way.
Yeah.
And that's what's important, is that he's really good to work with because he doesn't hang me out to dry.
right.
And he's always available to give me the information that I need that I can explain to my client. Because sometimes you have to have those conversations with your clients that, you know,
They have to hear it from the
I don't even
devastated.
want to have to tell her that now she could get that house.
Right, right, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Well, cool.
So, yeah,
If you
no,
need it, I'm always on. You know, I use my cell phone as my business phone. Email is the absolute quickest way to get a hold of me. You know, I'm always working. You know, it's not a 9 to 5 thing for me. And you know, I'm up at 6 o'clock this morning sending out pre-approval letters and things like that. So I like to think I've worked as hard as you guys are working, the unconventional hours, and you know, I think I'm a pretty good partner in that
But,
regard.
you know, don't take advantage of that. Just remember that he has a family, and,
My
you
family
know,
doesn't really like me.
if it's 10 o'clock at night, it can probably wait till tomorrow.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, send me an email.
So I'm setting boundaries for you. I'm
Yeah,
telling
I
you.
appreciate that. All right. Well, thanks for having me. It's nice to meet everybody.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
too. All right.
Thank you. So I told you that was really good, wasn't it? Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go through your database of your people that are over there. And I want you to figure out everybody who could be a first-time home buyer or knows a first-time home buyer or knows somebody who knows somebody that's a first-time home buyer. If you get this, what I'm telling you is every person in your database. You need to call them or email them and say, I met the most amazing lender today, and I have got to tell you about the products that he's got because he can help somebody. This is how you're going to get deals out of this afternoon. So everybody, there is no reason why everybody that whether you talked to them yesterday or you haven't talked to them at all, you now can't tell me you don't have a reason to call somebody.
I'm so sad. I had a first time home buyer. He's like 43. This would have been so perfect for him. I'm so sad.
Where did he go?
He went to approved mortgage and he could have got such a better deal.
Oh, he got a deal already.
You
Well,
think?
He probably knows somebody.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm telling you. There is not anybody in your database that doesn't know somebody that needs Tim.
So I was thinking it could be kind of challenging. So I'm like her. I just had my second deal, and now coming here could have saved them like a whole bunch of money. So I kind of like, should I reach back out to them and say, hey, I have new products. Could have saved you about $4,000.
But tell your friends.
You know, tell all your friends.
Well, blame it on COVID. Blame it on the virus. Just say, oh my gosh, you know, because of the virus, thank you.
Thank you.
Because of the virus, we've got these new things that have come on the market. No, but say that.
You just, because of that, it's more out in the open, so now I know about it.
Yeah.
Right,
So-
Because of the virus,
Right.
I just learned about this really awesome opportunity. I know I can't help you with it, but we already got you squared away. But who else do you know that is a first-time home buyer? Because I want to tell them about this. I mean, you're putting your own spin on that. You got to stop that. Don't make decisions for other people. You don't have to say, oh my gosh, I screwed up. You know, I should have known about this, what I didn't know when I sent, you don't have to tell them that. Just say, I just learned about something new because of the virus, because I switched to Keller Williams, whatever. I want to know, do you know any other, here's another one. I loved working with you and I want to work with people who are just like you. Who do you know who are just like you that are first-time home buyers that I can help? Now you've made them feel all good, right?
That sounds good. I feel you better saying.
See?
all
Yeah.
wording.
Yeah.
It's warm, fuzzy stuff.
I have felt bad since I've done it. Like, man.
All right, it's 10:30. We got a half an hour. Where were we on challenges? Brian, challenge? Did you give me a challenge yet? Other than COVID, that doesn't count.
Yeah, I don't honestly. I honestly can't think of something offhand.
How's your client feeling about having lost that deal?
Well, that happened Monday, and throughout the day Monday, he called me 3 different times. And honestly, it was just me being a sounding board. You know, I there wasn't really anything I could do about it. I knew that. And I was just, I really thought in the back of my mind, like, he's going to fire me. Though it wasn't my fault.
Right.
And so he actually, what was nice was he at one point said, he goes, man, I don't blame you for any of this. He goes, you've been great and I really appreciate all you've done. But you know, he was kind of devastated, but we moved on and we're already looking at more houses. So that's a good thing.
Good. Well, it's a learning opportunity for everyone, but that's really good. You know, you have to, you know, sometimes my instinct is, oh gosh, I don't want to give this news and I just want to avoid it, but you can't, you know, because they're hurting. I mean, it's a different kind of hurt, you know, disappointment, you know, is hurt. And so you just have to, you know, hug a little. I mean, not necessarily physically, but, you know, virtual hugs. All right, Mindy, we didn't get to hear your win and your challenge. You got to give us both. I know what your win is.
Actually, I got a couple of wins this week. I'm like starting to get really nervous. I ran into an old friend of mine and she's looking to flip a house. So I think I found her one yesterday that she wants to buy. And then I've been chasing a for sale by owner since maybe like March. And I keep sending her little notes and cards, and we only have talked on Facebook Messenger. And I reached out to her last week, and she said, okay, I think I'm ready to go with you. I'm ready to list it. So I met with her the other night. I was there like 2 hours, and I said, okay, I just need your signature. And she's like, well, I want to look it over. I was like, no, let's go over it line by line. So I got her to sign. And then come to discover she needs to buy a house on the west side. So that was exciting.
And your listing?
Yes, and my listing. And then tomorrow, I have a guy who's ready to list his house on the Flat Rock River for $250. So
I cannot wait to see these pictures.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Do you have a photographer?
No, I do not. And I want to get someone with a drone. I think an aerial shot would be so super cool because as soon as you walk down to this property, you just want to sit there and enjoy nature and never move again.
Well, that's going to be Pete. I'll send you Pete's information. Have you met Pete before?
Yes. Yes.
You already have his info?
No.
Right.
He spoke at a all agent
I
meeting.
have different photographers, but Pete's got the drone. Pete does a lot of video work with Scott Smith's team and also with the Marketing Center. Brian's probably worked with Pete a lot. He's awesome. He's not my favorite photographer, but he has the drone and the drones are awesome. So I'll send you guys, I'm going to send everybody my choices. You can use anybody you want, but I have just vetted out, and I have 3 choices. I have one that does really cheap 360 videos, maybe not the best pictures, but they're good enough. I have one that takes the most amazing pictures, and then Pete does the drone, and his videos and pictures are not as good as the other 2. So
Okay, great.
and it really comes down to, you know, what you need for any given listing. Like if I'm going to list something that's going to sell in 2 days, I'm probably not paying for a 360 video, right? Unless I have an occupied house and I really want to protect the occupants from looky-loos walking through, and then I'll go ahead and pay for it. So it's just a different, you know, there's different price points for each of them, and they all have different skills, like all of us, right? They have different skill sets. I absolutely love Pete. Brian, don't go tell Pete what I said. But it's like anything. I have 3 favorite inspectors too. And I pretty much I match my inspectors with the personality of my buyer. So if I have an engineer type D, I've got an inspector that is the most meticulous, but that inspector that's the most meticulous would take somebody like me and freak me out, right? Because I don't want to see all of that. So, you know, I have developed my list of vendors, and I recommend all of them when they're paying for it. I pick the photographer, but on the inspectors, I recommend all 3 of them, but I put my favorite on top for them, right? It's not my favorite overall, it's just my favorite for them for a reason. And the reason why I put them on top is generally people only call the first one. Unless they can't get a hold of the first one, and then they'll call the second one, right? They don't care. The pricing point's all the same. All they want is the price, right? They don't care who. I care who, because I'm going to have to deal with the report and the ramifications of the report. So I need the report to match. The surveyor, the title company does the surveys unless it's a stake survey. And if it's a stake survey, good luck with that, because they're almost impossible to get right now. Because there is if you know anybody who's looking for a career, there is a big void in the surveyor market, and getting a stake survey is really, and the only time you need a stake survey really is if it's vacant land.
Yeah, that's where I am. Yeah, I talked to one and,
I mean, they're
frustrating.
I had one, we had to close and write a check at closing for the surveyor. And if I were representing the buyer, I would have never recommended they buy unsurveyed, but we couldn't get it done in time for closing.
Well, and I know they talk a lot about, especially if it's odd shaped, and there's a lot of trees. They come and do the part they can, and then when the leaves are gone, they come to the rest. It's cheaper that way, because then their lasers will see it. It's like.
But a regular survey, so just the one that you would normally get, just the location survey, the title company orders it. So I don't even know who they use, and I don't care.
I was just asking if you knew anybody.
The staked ones, no. All right, Mindy, challenge.
The buyer who is looking to flip a house, it is in foreclosure, so I have to go through Home Pass, and I don't know how to do that.
It's very self-explanatory.
Okay, so I can do it. I don't need someone else to do it.
Yeah, you can do it. I think that's the one that you need Scott's code, though.
Okay.
Let me look at that. I have so this afternoon I have at 11:30 to 1:30 I have our very first exam study group coming in.
I've seen that. That's awesome.
Is my girl coming, Annette?
You know what? I'm not sure who's coming because I was on vacation this week, and I probably didn't do as good a job following. I did follow up via Smart Plan since I was on vacation, just like I coached you guys this week via Smart Plan.
It works.
I'm going to write another one of those, though. I like that. And what's really nice about that is I know all of you guys have been on that Smart Plan, but when we get a new agent that comes in, now I can just send that Smart Plan out and they get to do their goal setting without you guys having to hear it all over again. So I want to set up a routine of those, but I did the same thing. So I'm sorry, Mindy, I don't know the answer to that.
That's okay.
One of you guys had a half an hour you could donate to me today to help me figure out how to get people in the door and down here, because as one person, I'm logistically struggling with what I'm going to do with the door being locked and the maze of getting down here. If not, I'll figure it out.
I can help.
I would. Thank you. All right, so what we were supposed to do today, and I've left 20 minutes for it, is listing appointments. So tell me how you guys are doing. Does everybody have their listing presentation done in command?
Yes.
That's on the list.
So who's a yes? Mindy's a yes. Brian's a yes.
I listened to Becky's video on the way to my listing appointment, and that really helped.
Oh, is she not the queen? I mean, she is the best.
She's smooth.
I got to get Shauna to do hers as well, because Shauna's is completely different than Becky's, but they're both just stellar. I mean, stellar. I wouldn't ever video mine, but I'll tell you a quick listing presentation story. Bold, which you guys are going to get tired of hearing me talk about Bold between now and August when it starts, because I think it is the best thing that you can do for your career. But I did bold twice in person. And the first time I got my license in July and I took bold in October, November. And you had to do a listing presentation in front of a group of seasoned agents. And there was 3 of us, they broke us into teams of 3, and I had to list somebody who'd been an agent for 25 years. I had to do the listing presentation with him. And the third person was the observer, who then took notes and gave me critique back. And I was so sick that morning. I had made myself sick. I hadn't slept at all. I was a mess. I was absolutely a mess. I think I cried in the middle of it. The second time I felt so comfortable. And the reason why I felt comfortable was that I practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. So 2 things from that is bold is like, and it's different now because it's virtual. So you won't have to do that. So don't worry about it. That's not going to happen to you because it's impossible in bold right now virtually. And they've softened it a lot from the first 2 that I took, but I just took it in June when they did it the last time, and it is so good. And you will have, your database will blow up if you actually do the work. You have to take the class, but you have to do the work. You have to commit to it and do the work. If you just play it in the background and do something else, or if you sign up for it and you don't actually attend or listen to it, then you're wasting your money. But if you commit to it, you will absolutely change it. That's why I capped in 6 months, is because I took bold in 3 months. I had 2 transactions until I took bold, and from bold until January, I did $2 million worth of business. So
it's able to be done on a part-time basis as well.
yeah, so now it's virtual. It wouldn't have been in the old school day. I had to take some vacation days, but because it was what it is in person is it's every Monday for 8 weeks, or every Tuesday for 8 weeks. It's every day, and it's a full day. But virtually, they do it completely different, and there's a recording. So you can watch it at your leisure, but not really at your leisure. You've got to set a schedule and say that it's playing from, I can't remember what it is. Let's say it plays from 2 to 4. And so from 6 to 8 or whatever that would be, my math's not on today, but whatever that would be, that you're going to commit to it. You have to commit to get it in the time frame that it's given, or it's $100 that you could have spent on something else. But all right, listing presentation. So 2 up there. How many of you guys have your presentation done in Command?
I haven't started.
I have it in there.
So what is that? You say in Command.
In Command, in Designs, in Command. I sent you an email that had some videos of Becky actually doing the verbal part of the listing, and in there was a Marty Miller, I think, video on how to do it in Command. So you just need to go to Designs and do your thing. So since we only have 2 of 6, and the 2 of you that have done it are on Zoom, and I don't know how to get you to role play on Zoom, I need everybody to promise me that this week they are going to do their listing presentation and they're going to practice it with somebody once. Is that a fair thing to ask? You do not want to go into a listing presentation never having done one, really. You don't want to do that. And if you don't have somebody to practice with, then email me and I'll find time and we will practice it together. So I'm committing to you that that is one excuse that you cannot make, that you don't have anybody to practice it with, because you can practice it with me. It takes 30, 45 minutes to run through it. And I'll softball it too. I won't be mean. Has anybody actually script practiced the listing presentation? No? We have to. I'm sorry. There's just no way you're going to be. Well, Mindy has actually script practiced her listing presentation with the client. Do you really want to practice your first time with a client?
No, I wouldn't recommend it.
You know, Rhonda, if you don't script practice, the very first time you script practice is going to be when it's money in your pocket or not. Do you want that to be the case?
My first listing appointment was, did you get it? Well, I got her to sign it, but then it fell out because she lost her job and she can't afford to move anywhere else right finished because I had her on both. I was gonna have her on both sides, but it was horrible. I was there hours. I was like, this is crazy.
You're not doing
It was a
yourself and you're not
mistake.
doing your client any service if you have not. What else would you do in this world that was going to make you $3,000 to $5,000 that you wouldn't practice before you went to do it? I mean, you have to practice. You have to. I know it's hard to it's hard to wrap your brain around. If you've ever heard Gary Keller talk, your number one job is
Legion.
Your number two job is script practice. These are your two things that you are supposed to do every day. And you have to do those two things in order to be successful. So how many hours did you lead gen last week? Quite a bit. Good. Did everybody make an effort to lead gen last week? I mean, you just have to. I had somebody tell me, this isn't working out for me. Well, okay, let's talk about it. What's not working out for you? I don't have any clients. Okay, you don't have any clients. How many times have you asked somebody? How many conversations have you had? They're not going to call you. They do, though. Here's the great thing. I'm going to tell you that they're not going to call you, but they do call you. What happens is after you've had enough conversations and you have reminded them repeatedly, then they do call you. They call you and say, I have a listing that went live this morning. My girlfriend called me and said, all right, that lot that my sister has, I finally got the POA wrapped up. Can you come list it? I went over on Thursday and had lunch with my friend on my vacation and listed a $70,000 lot. She called me. I didn't call her, but how many times do you think I had already talked to her? And that's the reason she called me. And when I talked to her, I wasn't like, you have to sell that lot. You have to sell that lot. You have to sell that lot. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm loving real estate. This is so great. If you ever know anybody or if I can help you, just let me know. That's it. That's the conversation. It's not like some horrible script that you have to trick them into selling their house.
I had a conversation with my family that was in from Virginia. And we were just in the car, we were going kayaking, we were talking about, I said, I can still help you. Even if you're in Virginia, I can get you with somebody and I still get a benefit. I get referral. You can? You do? Yeah, I can.
But how would they have known that if you wouldn't have told them that?
Yeah.
That goes back to where we started at the very beginning of the day, is not assuming. Miranda's lesson. Don't assume, because I had people in my database that were Wisconsin, that didn't work out because I had a really hard time finding somebody in Wisconsin, but still I tried to help her. And because I tried to help her and she knows I spent a lot of time trying to help her, the next person that comes along that is easy for me, she's going to remember because she wants to give me an easy one because she knows how hard I tried to sell something in Pumpernickel, Wisconsin or whatever, Pumpernickel Lake or something, Wisconsin. It was crazy. Oh, that's not the name. I can't remember what it's called, but Pickle something. I don't know.
What do you suggest is like the easiest way to like tell your neighborhood? I mean, other than just talking to like flyers in the mailbox. Like what?
That's what I
Yeah.
was going to do. Because I was going to do the same thing.
You
That's
could
all
do-
my goals.
You could do flyers. Angie's not here today. She's teaching kids leadership skills, but popcorn, put a little bag, go to Costco and get a big bag, a big box, a case of microwave popcorn, right? And put a little note on it that says something, I just popped by to tell you, right? And put it on their door. I didn't bring, so there is a box back here before you leave. There's a box back there of office stuff. There's Echo clips. There's a wireless keyboard. I don't have the little thing that sticks into your computer to make it work, but you can order one of those off of Amazon. There's all kinds of stuff back there. Get what you want. But the other thing that I have is, for some reason, I don't even know how many door hanger bags, and I'll bring those in next week. So you could put the microwave popcorn in the door hanger bag with a note and hang it on their front door. Just pop by to let you know.
That's what I was thinking about doing
Yeah,
because of my
totally
neighborhood.
Does anybody Pinterest?
Yeah,
Yes.
I look in there all the time.
Just type in pop buys. That's what they're called. Pop buys.
I saw some really great forms for like $5 on Etsy. They're super cute. They have a little place for your card. I think that's how I got my for sale by owner, was a form, 10 reasons why to list with a realtor. And I have a feeling that's why I got that lady, but Etsy has been really good to me.
one thing I was doing before I had my license, so I was still kind of invested. So, plus I work for the post office too. So we were taking, I had my own flyer made up. So you're not necessarily supposed to put it inside the
Right.
mailbox,
Yeah.
but you can put it on the door or on the mailbox.
It's like on the flag or on the little handle thing,
Yeah.
kind of.
So you can put it on there, you just can't put it in the mailbox. But really, it's kind of like against the carrier, because he didn't deliver it himself, so it's really not a big deal. But if somebody,
Well, it's kind of a federal law, so
it's
it might be a big deal.
My social worker yelled at some kids who were
So
putting
that's
flyers in
the
the
thing. If
In the mailbox,
being
yeah.
there, you can't put it in there, but you can roll it up, put it on the door, stuff like that.
It's a shame that the newspaper doesn't get delivered anymore, because there used to be those little
Newspaper.
newspaper boxes
So
under
you
the,
can
you
put
could
it
put it
in
in
there. So
there.
that was the other
But
thing.
I put like the red bags, I hung the red bags on the red flag.
That's what I do.
And I did read that technically that was a problem, but because technically the entire mailbox is the property of the postal
It's one of
service.
those things.
But the doors.
It can
chain,
be,
right?
it is, because if your neighbor knows, and your neighbor doesn't want you to, want someone putting something in your mailbox, then they'll say, hey, mailman, I saw somebody put, so it's a good thing that, the neighborhood does it, but, like my
The problem
neighborhood,
with the door is if you go before the mailman, then that's gonna create a problem for the mailman to get his stuff in there. That's why
the
the,
mailman was following me as I was going.
That's-
She just waving.
Right. So what
that's
we
why
were
the
doing,
flag, I think, is
I
a
always did
better
it
idea.
after 5,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
that was the other
That's a
thing,
good idea.
you do it after the mail is ran,
But if you do it too late, then nobody's gonna get it, and then it's gonna be there the next morning when the mailman comes. So you gotta
Right.
time that
So
out.
it's right.
But you can also, door knocking is great. People love the door knock. I'm not so sure I would be door knocking in COVID virus, just saying. But that's everybody's personal choice. But you don't have to knock on the door to put a little hanger on their doorknob.
They're working
That's how I
like
am.
those
I'm
too.
not the door knocker, but now Nick, he loves it. Like when we do open houses, he loves talking to the people. Go ahead.
That's
He always passes out way more than I do. I'm like, he
you
loves
know,
it, but I
it's
don't.
everybody's
Yeah.
personal
Now, if you
choice.
want to put it in the mailbox, you just gotta get the designation on the actual stamp or the
Yeah.
paper. So we did end up doing that.
What is
So I
that
do-
you say?
Do like a designation, like a code, the barcode put on there.
Mhm.
You can have that done.
Does it cost money to do that?
I mean, but
Is it like per one or just a?
like per bundle, it's every door direct mail, EDDM.
EDDM?
Yeah, you can order postcards that are that, and they'll just deliver them for you.
So do you think the best, and because I would like to send out more flyers or postcards. Is it the cheapest just to do the postcards because they're cheaper to mail, right?
Cheaper postage.
Cheaper postage.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the smaller postcards are, do you know what the rates are now?
No.
Some
Used to be
postman
like-
we got.
Yeah.
Usually like
You know,
I work
yelling-
inside.
It's not-
I work-
I was gonna yell at you to get on Zoom because my mom got in big trouble. I was FaceTiming her at work. When she was at work, she got in trouble with the post office.
Well,
I was like, Mom, look, this guy's Zooming from his work.
well, yeah.
Hey, if you're working and listening,
No, yeah.
I do it.
What if you have like a vacant home, like marketing, like you said, investing, like has anybody listed like vacant homes?
There's
Like,
people
tried to
that,
reach
there's
out
people
to-
that do that. If you see a vacant home, look on Realist, see who owns it.
Yeah.
Write them a letter.
try
I
to
can tell you what I've
recommend.
done. I had buyers that wanted to buy in a condo community over by Geist, and we lost out on a couple first-time home buyers or not first time, a couple multiple offers, and just was really struggling. And they were a cash buyer, and we were losing because there were other cash buyers that were willing to pay over appraisal, and my guy was an engineer. He was not paying over. And so I wrote a letter and I pulled it on Remine. I pulled everybody in the neighborhood off of Remine. And if you don't know how to do that, that's part of your MyBor subscription. And there are online trainings for Remine. You can pull that up. But I pulled all the addresses down on Remine. And I mailed letters to all of them and said, I got a buyer who really wants to buy, and I got a couple phone calls. Now it didn't work out for anything. And the way I actually did end up getting it is I also watched a couple that we'd missed out on. And I saw that this is at the very beginning of COVID. So like they were supposed to close on March 17th or something like that. And on March 19th, I saw it still didn't show as closed because I checked those. I want to know what it sold for. That's how I learn. And I called the agent and she said, oh my God, I'm so fed up with this. So your people want to buy it, we'll do it. And so she did a mutual release, got out of it, and we bought it, and it was a cash buyer, and we closed in 18 days. But I stole it.
Good point though. I
But-
keep an eye on that sometimes. We're like, this is still under contract like 2 months later. or
Mhm.
something.
And if you got somebody that wants it, help them out. And then I didn't have to compete with anybody, right? Because we did it simultaneously, and because she was fed up, and I was a cash buyer, and I was ready to go, and so we were good. So
What does corporate signatures mean?
corporate signature means it's a short sale. Okay, so that what a short sale means. Short sale means that the seller owes more than the property can sell for. So the corporate signature is that the bank has to agree basically to walk away from part of the money that they're owed. And it takes a really long time. Do not let the word short make you think that it's going to be quick, because short does not equal quick. Short means short. Short means that it's going to sell for less than what's owed on it. It does not mean quick. It actually takes a really, really, really long time.
Just discouraged my brother. It's all they were looking at. And I'm like, stop. You can have a really nice house for less the hassle and about the same.
Yeah,
it's a
they're
mess.
in a different market, but right now there's just somebody in our group had a buyer that wanted to know why this, because they're accepting backup offers. You know what, they're accepting backup offers, and I would too on a short sale, because I'm hoping that somebody's going to come in with cash and not make it short, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be the hope, right? I mean, my deal that just fell apart that you did an open house on, that you guys did an open house on, that's a foreclosure. It's not short. I got an appraisal back. The appraisal is more, we can walk away with more money. But I just got to get it sold.
I was wondering about that, and someone asked about foreclosure and home path. So that's because that house hasn't gone to foreclosure.
It hasn't gone to auction yet.
Hasn't gone to
So the
auction.
COVID, there's a governor moratorium on auctions on foreclosures.
Okay. So they can.
So that's
still
why
sell
I
it.
have 4 months now, where I normally wouldn't have 4 months once it's gone into foreclosure. I would normally only have about 30 days, but I have 4 months to get it sold. It went into foreclosure while we were under contract.
Oh, it didn't start out.
They had been in foreclosure twice, so we knew there was a problem.
Gotcha.
We listed right before COVID. We had dog problems. We had, when people's property ends up in foreclosure, there's typically other issues as well, because they haven't had the money, right, to pay their mortgage payment, which means they haven't had their money to do other things, probably like maintenance and upkeep and that kind of stuff. So, whenever you walk in, there's a line on the purchase agreement where they have to say if they owe more than what they're going to sell it for. And it's important, like if you've gone in and you've seen that it's been in foreclosure like twice in the last 2 years, you need to have I didn't do this right. I needed to have a much more serious conversation. Because I looked up and I felt like I knew everything I needed to know about the mortgage, but I didn't know that they had federal tax liens. And so when we got ready to close, we had federal tax liens on top of the foreclosure. And so I didn't ask enough questions, and it's completely on me. I mean, that's completely on me, because I didn't know.
Is that the Jackson house?
Mm-hmm. And the
There were
title
dog
company,
problems, you said?
smell, and it's still going to be
Oh,
that way
smell.
today. I
The
think
dogs are super sweet.
Oh, the
Man,
dogs
they were
are the-
sweet.
they
dogs,
are the
but-
best dogs ever,
How
but they
many did
smell.
have?
Two.
Just two?
Oh, and sweethearts.
I don't have animals,
That's
so
a nice
maybe it's.
Was
because-
it? Did it?
Yeah.
You did it Thursday, right?
Yeah,
It
it
still
didn't smell
smells.
when you walked in.
I've talked her into,
But- the carpet.
The house is weird with the staircase. What is that? Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
that-
the
that
bonus
area?
room? I
Yeah.
love that
I
bonus
thought it was pretty
room.
cool, but it's,
I was looking at it for myself.
but I
Well,
hear
it's-
it's super hot up there.
It has a separate air conditioner.
Oh,
They just-
does it?
they
Okay.
just weren't running the separate air conditioner.
Okay, that's good, because that was a big complaint when I had the.
Yeah, it's just got a
Wow.
separate, and it's same, you might have it this weekend too. The
Okay.
the same thing goes. It has
I'll
a
just let
separate
them
air
know.
conditioner. We're
Okay.
just not running it right now.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's replace. Look
What's it
like
listed
both
for?
of them were actually 315.
Oh,
Yeah.
If anybody asks though, you know, the reason why the last transaction fell apart was that it's going to show up as a foreclosure. So that, you know, we have a foreclosure issue. You know, the buyers just created a situation, and the buyer wasn't really willing to wait around. We could get it. Because now we've got it. We've got everything done now. We got what we needed from the foreclosure, and we got what we need from the IRS. So we can close now.
Okay.
We could close on Wednesday. I just couldn't close it on the Tuesday that we had to close it. And the buyer was awful. And the agent on the other side had never done another transaction. So he's at Carpenter in Shelbyville and has had no training whatsoever. He did an inspection response and gave me 12 hours to respond. So, so it was just, you know, but the answer is that there is a foreclosure issue, and when we got to closing, we couldn't get everything that we needed from the courts because of the virus. We now have everything that we need to close. So we will not have another problem, but the last buyer just wasn't willing to wait around for us.
Okay, got it.
So
I
that's
do
the
have
answer
one
there.
quick question
Okay.
before I put in this purchase agreement today. From the one I have from Becky, the template I have from Becky is different from this new one. And the building use limitations, because you know, you can put in there the buyer may, but it does have a line. It says buyer shall have blank after acceptance of this agreement to satisfy the contingency. What is the kind of a normal you put in there? Because I don't have one in the other one. You put like 10 days, 5 days?
I think that my realtor just this week put 14 because she said that's like your.
It's
due
the same as
diligence.
same as your, whatever you've got for your inspection. So if you've shortened your inspection period to 10, then you're gonna want that to be the same amount of time. So that's what you're talking about. That's your contingent period. That's your time to go do your due diligence to get your inspections and your insurance, because you should have the same number on the line for insurance. So what you're basically saying is that we don't have a done deal for 2 weeks, right? Because in 2 weeks, we'll tell you, are we really going to move forward or not? And this is one of the things about a multiple offer situation. We can shorten that to 7 days, right? Then you're going to go into a pile that, okay, I'm going to know in 7 days, not in 14 days. So the shorter you can make that, the better.
I don't think this would work. They did say they would come up with $10,000.
They don't, the use that they're going to have, here's the thing about the use though. Why would you ever put anything in there?
Well, I didn't know if I don't want to leave any blanks, just put NA maybe?
Or
For the builder's
zero.
use limitation? I could do that. 'Cause
I mean-
really, it's.
if we're going to live in it, it's a house.
Yeah,
What are our building use limitations?
I mean, it's not like it's a piece of property sitting in the middle of nowhere. I mean,
Or
it's-
if you
it's-
intend to put a hair salon in the garage, or I don't know, if you're going to run a business out of it and you're afraid, or if you're planning on renting it and it's in a neighborhood, you need to read the covenants to find out if you can, that's a building use, right? You can't have rentals. But I don't mark that. I don't just always mark that box yes, because it doesn't always make sense to mark it yes. If it's a house and I'm going to live in it, I already know it's lit. I mean, what would that be?
Yeah, well, when I first seen it, I thought, well, that's kind of weird. But then I thought, well, I'm sure there's, like anything else on this thing, is somebody somewhere has done something.
Always. All right, guys, was this useful today? Did you like Tim?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think Tim should get you all some business. There is no reason why Tim is not your biggest gift today. You should be able to get one piece of business at a minimum from Tim.
I just texted 2 people.
Yeah, I had like 4.
Because it was-
I mean, he's big. He's great to work with. You guys saw that about him, right? He's just.
Yeah.
He's the best to work. I mean, it was such a gift that I found him. You know, he's got a great product and he's great to work with. I mean,
What is that called, or do you know what that
The
actually is
program.
called? Yeah.
it's the First Merchants No Down Payment Program.
They
As far
just-
as I know, I don't know what it is.
Somewhere.
It's their community initiative, or I don't know that it has a formal
I
name.
wonder where like any.
But you said we will have this in a video.
Yeah, I'll have the video. I'll send the video out.
Cause that's what you could do with your, shoot you a slight video of one of the open house, the actual house, and then tag that video to it.
Yeah, because this is.
Oh, don't send our coaching email out to anybody.
Your
That's just
coaching
for us internally.
You get that video of him doing that? Of him saying that?
Yeah, I wouldn't send that out.
Maybe
to
I'll
anybody.
email
You
him
just
and
tell
say
people.
record yourself.
Yeah, you could ask
Record
Tim.
yourself
You
doing
could
a
ask Tim to
promo
do
or-
a little promo, but I wouldn't. There were some things that were talked about there that really are just for
Maybe
us.
his,
Well, it's not me, you got
Yeah, maybe
property.
in the email he sends you,
I sent the whole
maybe make
video
up a
with
flyer or
props on it.
something to hand out.
That's what I was gonna say, maybe
Make up
just,
something, you know,
if
that
he has a
sends you.
Facebook page, maybe like link his Facebook or
Yeah.
something. But this house today
But
is
you
like
don't want to give them.
103.
Don't give them away. They're your leads. They're your people. This is your contact, your lender. You use this for you. Don't send them out to Tim until they're committed to you, right? So you want to get a buyer's agreement before you give them Tim's information. That's their reason to work with you,
Good idea.
right? I've got a lender that has this program. What do you want to do? You want to set an appointment, right? Don't just give them the info. What's the milk and a cow? Come on. There's a song. What's the
So-
song? Help me out. What's the milk and a cow song?
It's not milk.
Got
It's the
me.
bull and the.
That's not
No, there's
It's
a
the bull
milk and
down
a
the hill.
cow. Hank, no. Oh gosh, now I'm gonna have to work on this song thing.
So today at the open house, it's like 135 is what it's listed at.
Uh-huh.
So if somebody didn't have a realtor, I could say, I have this really great loan product, but not tell them.
I
or
have a
give that
really great loan
contact
product and I
information.
would love to work with you and
Meet with
share
you.
that with you. Can we
Okay.
schedule an appointment? What's good
Okay.
for you next week? Would Tuesday work?
Okay.
Right? You want to get an appointment. Tim, the way you get business out of Tim, I'm sorry that I wasn't clear. The way you get business out of Tim is you call the people in your database and say, oh my gosh, I have something I have to share with you. When is good to get together?
Okay.
You want an appointment. Because if you don't get an appointment, you're not getting a contract, and do not give Tim's information out until you have a buyer's agency agreement signed.
Okay.
Why would you give them Tim and then they go use another realtor?
I guess I would just hope they wouldn't if they're like. a
Why
family
would you
member.
hope when all they have to do is the buyer's purchase agreement protects the buyer?
Mhm.
It's not just about you, it protects the buyer. When you give them that agreement, you say, just like when you go to the doctor or an attorney or anybody, I have to have an agreement before we work together because the state requires me to let you know what your rights are in our relationship.
Mhm.
That's when you have the agency conversation. It is required by the state that you have that conversation about agency. And you do that through the buyer's exclusive agreement. If they say, well, what if I don't like working with you? That's fine. We can write some easy out language here. I don't want to work with you if you don't want to work with me. I just ask that if I do something that you don't like, that you give me one opportunity to fix it before we part ways.
Okay.
That's the conversation. And they sign it every time. They sign it every time. But you don't want to give them your goodies. Why would you give them your goodies for free when they aren't bound to you to work with you? So you get an appointment, you get a buyer's agency agreement signed, and then you give them Tim's information to get pre-approved. And you can give them a little overview of it. It's a no down payment loan and it's a silent second. You don't even have to pay it back. Let me tell you about it. Let's get together.
So don't give out the information.
Not without an agreement.
So make everybody sign an agreement.
Yeah.
Everybody that's going to work with you needs to sign an agreement.
I didn't sign one with my realtor.
Right,
I guess
so
I didn't
it's-
realize
so
that was.
that's
as
what I said, this is
common.
all-
My brother
this
did
is
the same
new,
thing.
so-
I'm telling my brother, you have got to get a sign, because we referred him to another realtor. I said, you have got to get that signed. Get all this paperwork done. You need that. Yeah.
It
It's
protects the
important.
buyer as much as it
Yeah.
protects you, but
Yeah.
if you give them this information and they have a brother who's a realtor,
Yeah.
and then they get pre-approved and then they go with their brother and go buy a house, what did you get for the information that you got
See,
from
I'm,
them?
So
I'm
that's
giving
where-
my brother
So that's
the
what I'm saying,
information.
and this is all new for me
I'm like, you
because
better not go.
to me,
I will.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If Tim can help, like my sphere of influence is the post office.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna be able to reach everybody. There's plenty of other people in the post office that are realtors, but they just not like me.
Mhm.
So if Tim can help any of them, to me, I don't mind them
Well, if
helping.
there are other realtors at the post office, the way they get Tim's information is you have them come to Keller Williams.
There you go.
But-
There it is.
But
There it
that's
is.
a-
That's
there
your-
are like
that's
two
your
or three other
number.
Keller Williams agents at the post office. I'm saying they're just not me.
Mhm.
The way I move around through the whole
Well,
sphere.
You
is
need to
different.
find a one.
But why do you want them to get the
Like
work?
she,
Why do you
like
not want the
the
work?
person who gave me the, kind of told me to come to Keller Williams.
Yeah.
I've been talking to her. I've been knowing her for 20+ years. She's not as involved as this whole process as I am. With just
Okay.
period, was just
Well,
period.
I'm not saying
So to
that.
me, it's like.
I'm not saying not to share. I share with you guys. I don't keep them to myself. I mean, I've shared with everybody. I'll share Tim with other people. I'm saying don't share it with buyers.
Yeah.
I mean, why would you, if this is somebody that you would like to do business with, why would you give them the information until you know that they want to do business with you?
What if,
Mindset,
like, say if I'm kind of talking to somebody, but they're not, maybe they're kind of getting their finances in order. Should we do it to them before? Because I don't know.
You just have a frank conversation. I need to make sure this is when you have an appointment, right? You have an appointment. They can still sign a buyer's
Maybe
agency
they're not
agreement.
looking for like 8 months. Say,
They can still sign a buyer's agency
Push it
agreement.
far
You
enough.
just push it out for
Yeah.
the end of next
Okay.
year. And then you'd have the conversation. Well, all right, why are you waiting for 8 months? Is it because you don't think your credit score is good enough? Or you are under a lease? What is the reason for that? 8 months. Remember what the rule of thumb is at 8 months, right?
4 months.
4 months, right? So what's holding you back? Do you have a credit score of at least 600? Do you have some 2 years of rental history? Well, I think maybe I'd like to have you talk to the lender and he can just tell you where you are in this process. It may be a debt to income ratio and maybe they really do need to pay some things down and wait. But if they talk to Tim, now Tim's going to know that it's your client. Tim's going to follow up with them and you're going to follow up with them. So now you've got 2 opportunities not to let them fall through the cracks. But you have to get an appointment. And that doesn't have to be an in-person appointment. It could just be a telephone appointment that you have a serious conversation with. But you need to send them the buyer's agency agreement and walk them through it on that call. Don't have your appointment and then send it to them and think they're going to sign it back to you. Send it to them, have them pull it up, walk them through it and say, okay, now if you're good, go ahead and hit the button there and it'll just electronically sign it and send it back to me.
Yeah, I need to go over the whole thing.
I know. We
The
need like
buyer
a
agency
whole-
agreement, all that, mindset, mind frame, all that. I need to go through the whole thing because this part of it, I wasn't taught none of this. So everything is freelance. Like I said,
I need
before
like a
come,
list
I
of
wouldn't
like-
even know.
I mean, we can use it.
I'm gonna run up while you guys talk for a minute. I just gotta put this stuff on the copier because I got. Not yet.
Oh,
It's only
okay.
10 after.
Oh.
I mean, we can you guys keep talking and I'll be back. We don't have to end. I just gotta put
Thank you.
stuff on the copier.
I need like
I
a
just gotta
listing
nip
at buyers.
Yay!
Yeah. What'd you say? What'd you
And
say?
they let
Accepted offer.
And they let it expire last night. It was supposed to expire at midnight.
Yeah,
Last night,
that
but
happened to me the first time. That late, the first realtor I worked, well, my case went terribly bad. I carried that realtor the entire month. Okay, this is not it. This is not here yet. You need to get this to me. This is not. And then she ended up turning on me and saying it's my fault. This didn't go through. I'm like, what just happened? Wait a
So all
second.
you're all just new.
I started in November.
I just got my license like 2 weeks
Because
ago.
you was talking.
I- Yeah.
I haven't done.
But I mean, so how do y'all feel with this process? Because like we come from co-op back, not nothing bad against them, but this is a total different swing of how they teach the new agents to
I
do
can
things.
imagine if I did not have this.
So the reason I came to Keller Williams, well, first of all, my son came here first. So my son is a realtor as well. He's just not here today. The reason we came here is because their training processes, and because another realtor told me a
Right.
new agent needs to go to Keller Williams because they have such an intense training process. And,
Right.
and like she said, that one guy didn't know nothing. I've heard a lot of them. If I didn't have any kind of training and you just set me out there to go, I'm like, oh Lord, I'm
Yeah.
packing some
So
losses
that's
because
kinda
I didn't do it right.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what I meant, you know, 'cause
Yeah,
I
you have to just,
sometimes I feel like
it's
I
a
am.
process.
I try to call them all the time and I'm like, sorry, I'm not like I'm bothering.
Yeah.
I have a hard time
Like,
calling my own sphere of
Last
influence
Tuesday
because I'm
I
afraid they'll
did
laugh at me.
yeah, the questions come up
Why
so
would they?
fast when you're trying to do stuff. It's
yeah, and I'm
like,
like,
I
no,
don't
I
wanna
need
bother
to know
nobody,
it now and I don't
but-
know who to call.
you know, 'cause like the whole DocuSign, they usually have to do it from my phone. Like I'm trying to show my mom a house. You gotta do the COVID waiver and all that stuff. So you guys just go ahead and fill it out for her, send it through. Well, yesterday it wouldn't let me download it through the phone to sign. So then I'm trying to do the DocuSign through the computer and it wouldn't work. So I just got frustrated trying to make that whole thing.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So I
There's
just
a
told my
lot
mother, we
there.
can't see the house. Forget about it. It's over. Somebody bought it, you know. But that was frustrating yesterday. But
Yeah.
before I just been kind of, I don't say winging it, but from the other company I came from, it was kind of like winging it. It wasn't in depth as this stuff is so far. So my contracts, he gave me a contract that he had done that worked for him. So I just copied it, filled in all the blanks. Changed the seller's closing cost or something like that. But I was losing all the deals. So a year later, now I was like, I'm going to come with it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of
it's
things
just
to
different.
use. I use the escalation clause almost
see,
every
now,
time I put an offer
Everybody
in.
keeps saying that, so they didn't teach me anything about escalation
I had to
clause
look at it. We looked
from
at it.
class.
Yeah.
So now that, everybody says, well, once you get into the real world, you don't use that stuff in class. Well, I keep using it, I keep hearing it. So some of the stuff that he said, I had to go back to my books and read on it. But my manager broke from another company didn't give me this kind of knowledge that I've been here 2 weeks.
Well, I'll tell
So
you,
it's crazy.
Rhonda and Scott are amazing, and they kind of, and they've helped me through my worst situation I had, which almost put me into the point of, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. But at least I got that one out of the way early. But my first experience was first-time home buyers. Everything was great. We had problems, but the environment that we're in it's fast. And you got to move fast, and you have to know how to be because I did a packet, a offer purchase order. I had a packet. I had pre-approval letter. I had the letter. I had everything there. Escalation clause, everything there. We didn't win because the number just went so high. But that realtor called me and said, you did an amazing job. I can tell you took your time. I can tell you put a lot of effort in this. I just wanted to call you and let you know you did an amazing job. And it's good to get those. You don't always get them. Sometimes you say, no, you didn't get it. But, like she said, everybody's got their own way. But with Carla, I really, really like Carla because I can relate to Carla. She gives a ton of information. Read all her emails because every one of them is a good point. And it helps you
Am I the
out.
only one lost about the goals?
Huh?
Am I the only one lost about the goals?
They're there. I just haven't done them.
With the 411 goals,
Yeah, is this the only thing that you filled out?
Like first.
I don't even know what that is. I just did the file. I just downloaded her.
You sit on the
I just-
paper, you wrote them out? or
No, I just downloaded
saved
her
it in a Word
Google
document.
thing.
I
Her
couldn't get
Google
that
Doc. I
deep and
downloaded it.
save.
I didn't use that.
So
What I did was I downloaded hers
Yeah.
and it goes into what is that called? Google Docs or something, and then I saved it as my own. And that's what I was gonna use.
so
I just
I wrote all
just
mine down on a
download
separate piece
hers.
of paper.
Yeah.
My first one
Yeah.
Right,
is,
that's what I first said.
my first one is, I can tell you how I did my first one. It's really funny. I seen it this morning.
It's kind of the same as your GPS, like it's your GPS.
I just wrote it out.
GPS
Right.
and put it
Yeah.
into your 411.
Yeah.
is how
So
I
That's my
do it.
listings.
So every
There's
month
my
you have to
goals.
do
You have your
A
account.
411.
So your 411 has to be done every,
just the
the first of every month on by the 5th.
Yeah,
So then there's the,
is that your 411?
yeah, not very good though. Yeah. And then you have to do this every Sunday.
Right, I
Oh,
do
see, I
that.
don't.
See, at first I was doing it by paper. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. And then I was texting her.
I do that, I scan it. every
So,
month.
that's how I did, but
It might be better to do it like that. Cause
Yeah.
when I was at home writing my stuff
so you may
down,
want to ask her if
I
she's
kept
okay with the
going back
picture.
and forth on the computer to.
Me texting my account, but the first time I was
Oh,
texting
Okay,
it.
no,
You know
your
the
phone,
important
scan
thing is that
I found that out
So
too.
do it.
Found that out too.
the important thing, you need to know this. I mean, I do want to review them because I'm going to have a conversation with you about it.
Mhm.
But the important thing about sending it to me is it makes you do it. And my part of my job as your coach is accountability. And so if you don't send it to me, then I don't know that you did it, but I'm pretty much guessing that if you didn't send it to me,
You didn't.
do it. And I,
Where's that purchase?
thank you.
I did find it, but we didn't talk about it. So.
Oh, well,
Yeah. Appraisal.
2 hours goes by really fast.
Oh, can I actually get signs?
Oh, yes.
Walk out.
Let's go get signs.
Hey, Carla,
What
is
time
it
do you
okay
wanna-
that she does the amendment? She just didn't send it over to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't matter who does it, ever?
It's great when somebody else
That's what I thought.
You have a stage? You have a stage,
She does some. She does staging. So they just started doing it. They did a really good job on that one house. Nick did an open house for it. He did an awesome job on it. Yeah, I need to find a photographer. I'm gonna put my house up for sale. my personal house.
I have got for my house up for sale. I'm the same. I'm like your client. I just keep looking. And my house needs to be put for sale. But I'm gonna be the one that like gets beat out and everything. So I'm saving the money for.
I mean,
Ernest.
well, yeah, we're ready to go, but we're gonna build, so we want property, and that's
So that's
really hard to
That's why I said what I
find.
did, cause I found some property, we live on the east side, so looking to build up from, maybe Corsville, by 650 north.
Mhm.
So I found some land over there, and I was like, let's just build, sell this right now while we can.
Gosh, it's
So I
so
was thinking,
expensive.
so yeah,
So expensive. We're wanting to build a pole barn home.
Oh yeah.
Mhm. And we want to, what we were gonna do is just buy the property and then live in we're gonna build a pole barn, just a plain flat out pole barn. We're gonna live in our RV for a little while until we get just like a section of it to live in and then pay cash for the home. Build the home later. It's called a slow build. It's just me and my husband. Well, my son lives with us now. That's why I was asking questions to that guy because he's ready to buy. But he's only got about $6,000 in savings, so, but he doesn't have the 2 years of rental, but he's got some other things that maybe they'll do, I
I
don't know.
just said, the post office, there's so many people who benefit from it. But how do you, I gotta figure out how to market that to specific people. But then,
Like she said, no, I wouldn't market until they're yours because that's up to you, that's what your thing is, how you want to, you're like us, well, I think are you dual career?
No,
No,
I'm kind of just doing this for fun.
so I'm dual
quit my
career.
job.
I have another job that I do Monday through Friday. So, I it's not like this is my career, but I want it to be eventually.
right.
That's
So,
I'm just like stay at home right now. I've worked forever, but I have my son, and then I have another one coming, and I just want to keep something to keep me busy.
see, this is kind of more my
So I
retirement
told
plan.
Judy, I told her, like, she's like, "What's your goals?" I'm like, my goal is to learn, and like in 5 years, then I want to take off, and like
Yeah.
plant people's
And that's okay
people's
too.
ears.
Yeah,
and-
that's okay.
If you guys ever need signs, we have got like a bunch of like open house signs or whatever. They do have my name and my phone number on them, but just let me know when you can have these signs. I'm gonna get some. They're just gonna be like, I don't know,
Just say something.
productivity team or something, but it's just gonna have the office number on it. I just, it's on my list.
They're not too expensive, but that one lady does. I need to call her. But I felt bad. I did one for Christy, my old manager, and her sign got taken. Her signs get taken all the time.
I got one stolen, but I have the El Cheapos because that's what I'm doing. Just I'm trying not to
The
get too
ones
far
that-
into my personal
that are
income.
under them. That's what
I got them off Amazon for pretty cheap, but I do as I go. So when I sell a house, I use that money to put back into my, because my next purchase is a laptop and open house signs that I don't have to keep taping the date and the time on them. Because I'm about ready to lose it with
They're
that.
like $25 at Christie's.
Okay, they're 18 at, I think it was 18 a piece at was trying to do someplace in Franklin.
Oh,
Spotlight's trying to do
And I use MH360 right there behind his Thai Spice on County Line Road. And I think he's 15.
Is it?
15, really?
See, I'm not dedicated to anybody. I'm going, at this point, I have to go where it's cheap.
Maybe I'll go negotiate a price with him for everybody.
Yeah, that'd be great. Because I'm ready. As soon as I sell this next purchase, I'm buying open house signs. I'm not doing this anymore. Nick and I are always doing that.
So here's a tip on those signs, because I did that for a while. Is if you put packing tape on them,
I do.
a big piece of packing tape, and then you can write on a dry erase markers.
I'm not saying anything about that. See, I laminated so I always do it on a Saturday and Sunday and 12 to 2, so I laminated them so I can just peel them off and put them on the other, but,
Or yeah, you
I'm
could do
over that,
that.
too.
You could laminate them and just do like some Velcro.
yeah, that's a good idea too. My husband actually came up with that. So do you want me to stand upstairs?
If you would, and
Yes.
just tell people how to get to
Oh, I
down
can look to your
here.
little box.
Or I'm gonna run upstairs and,
I need a stager.
you need a what?
Stager.
A stager. Okay, I'm that person.
Oh, you are?
I stage for 1% of the purchase price paid at closing.
Let me fix this.
So instead of the seller having to pay for it on the front end,
Right.
I do it afterwards. Just
Fix this.
send you the address and
Yeah.
I'll get you.
Elbow clips. Some paper clips.
But my daughter and
Do you
son
want
and
me
I
to
also
also
do
give you
it.
some paper clips?
Okay.
I'll send you some pictures here. How many you want? 2 boxes? I've done a lot of Becky's houses. Hang on.
Hi, hi. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
All right.
Sheila?
These are what I need, because I'm out. See ya. Okay, I'm going upstairs. Carla, thank you for the supplies.
Oh, thank you for letting people in.
Yes, you're welcome. How long you want me to stay up there for?
Oh, it's supposed to start at 11:30, so maybe give it till 11:40, and
Got
then hopefully anybody would message me if they didn't get here.
All right. Holler if you
Oh,
need something.
look, I gotta get the right Zoom on.